Fantasy Footballers Podcast with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Ho, 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 ho. Santa, Merry Christmas, boys and girls. I think I turned Russian at the very end. I had a little bit of the Count from Sesame Street coming in there. The number 3.
Merry Christmas. More like Merry Shipmas.
Oh, to the ship.
It's the ship week.
I had no clue where that was headed.
Championship.
And even after you said it, I was confused for a second.
Mike
It is the champ. Well, you know, you understand more than anybody because you've defeated both of us on your way to a title game in our big league.
Drink to that.
Welcome.
How are you holding up?
I am.
You were not here yesterday.
That's right. Jason is back.
I am back. I have. I've been flushed out and I'm ready to go.
That's good. I was a little worried that the physical stress of being in a championship week had
Did you
taken
listen
you out.
to the show yesterday?
I listened. Yes.
We conjectured that the stress from my matchup with you is what led to your immune system failing.
That could be the truth. That could be. We don't know. I'm not a doctor.
But you're back. You're back, and you just had a fresh caramel, and you must be fine.
Yep. That's
back to
I've
normal.
Heard when you get healthy, you start your morning off with caramel.
Yes, yes. So welcome. It is Wednesday, December 23rd, and this is the Megalodon episode.
Part 2.
The Christmas episode.
The revenge.
Right. That's the storyline.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. We're back.
The Megalodon's getting revenge on us?
Christmas revenge. We've got a gargantuan, monstrous, humongous, giant, tiring show for us, but not for you. You'll enjoy it. We've got all the news, all the injury reports. We are trying to get you as ready as possible for your holiday Christmas championship battle. I mean, it's timing up as a Christmas gift to you. Your championship is a Christmas gift. And so we've got sits of the week. We got starts of the week. We got all of the matchups. We have some. We have a special Christmassy themed surprise. That's the way I'll put it.
All right.
I don't want to tease too much. We've got the mailbag on the show today. We got some trivia.
Whoa.
I mean,
whoa.
Strap in.
I'm starting
It's
to
time to
stress
go.
again, guys.
Jason is fallen ill. He's just going to run out of the room.
Goodbye.
Look.
I like
Hop
that.
on the whale. It's time to ride.
Oh yeah, ride the whale. That was a big hit.
You know what's funny is we never once mentioned Eddie Lacy's name, and yet every tweet about riding the whale had pictures photoshopped of people riding Eddie Lacy, and that is just wrong, people.
I cannot confirm or deny that I found those to be funny.
You did very much. All right, you can follow the show on Twitter at the FF Ballers. You can visit the website, thefantasyfootballers.com, and see everything we got going on over there. We're on YouTube, the Fantasy Sports Network. We're on Facebook. And, of course, we're on iTunes. So click that subscribe button. We're a year-round podcast. We will be recording all year round. We'll have shows in your pocket in January, in February. It doesn't matter. Sure, your fantasy football season's over. You'll be in the afterglow of your title, running around your workplace, mocking people, making them feel terrible. Christmas spirit.
Right.
And but it'll be great. So, hey, let's start right now with some trivia, some quick questions for you guys.
Let's do it.
All right. This season has been the best of my career. I have had double-digit fantasy points in every game but 2 for the whole season. Since week 6, I've been on an absolute tear, having 50 or more receiving yards in every game, and this season cracking the top 5 in points for my position. Don't forget, I've been able to do all of this while only eclipsing 100 yards one time.
What?
Okay.
I think I've got mine, but I think
Only-
it's this guy every week, so I'm probably wrong.
Hold on. Okay. So, double digits in every game but 2. Only eclipsing 100 yards once. That's where I'm getting psyched out, man. I'm getting psyched out over here.
No
you
guesses,
go ahead,
huh?
Jason. You go ahead, Jason.
I'm gonna go. I don't believe he's top 5, which is probably why it's wrong. But I refuse to not ever answer Eric Decker. I know he's only got one 100-yard game, I believe, and he scores a touchdown all the time. So
This one is stumping you, and I like it.
Yeah, I was gonna go with Brandon Marshall, actually.
You guys have both walked down the wrong road
Oh.
because the answer is Delaney Walker.
Oh, you trickster.
Hey,
Very
it said I've been in the top 5 in my position,
Receiving
best
yards.
of my
Yeah.
career. Delaney Walker, huge season from him.
Absolutely.
Wow.
All right, let's see if we can get this next
So
one.
Hey,
and Delaney Walker, we can permuse. I just made up a word.
I like it.
Permuse?
Look it up.
Let's permuse him for a moment.
Hold on. I'm gonna make a Wikipedia page real quick that says that word exists. But
That's where words are defined.
He's been great. I get all my info from there.
Yeah.
He's been great. We don't expect him to take a huge hit with Zach Mettenberger, but in my opinion, he does take a slight bump down.
All right, number 2 here. After an awful performance last year, I have significantly turned it around this season. PPR leagues, I'm a top 5 player at my position this year, and I don't even play 60% of my team's snaps. My coach must not be paying attention, as I have led the league in rushing yards since week 11. Put me in, coach. Who
What?
am I?
I am very confident I know this answer, but I am not confident that the 60% of team snaps is right.
that's where I'm getting thrown off.
That's impossible.
I believe. I thought it was Doug Martin.
Yeah, Dougie Martin. He was bad last year. He's top 5, and I'm very confident that he has led the league in rushing since in the last few weeks. He's been putting
His
up
name
monster
is Doug
numbers.
Martin.
Yes.
Is he really only getting 60% of the snaps?
Yeah.
That's crazy because he's
You
one
see
of the
Sims
league
out there. You see
That's
it
true.
all the time.
and
Game flow.
but he is one of the league leaders
That's
in
right.
carries, which means when he's out there, he must be getting the ball like 80% of the
When
time.
you get a game
How do you
of
like-
over 200 yards, that really helps.
Yeah.
How do you like Doug Martin against the Bears this week?
I can dig it.
Yeah,
I can dig it.
very very happy with Doug Martin. I think he's
All right.
top 5 for me.
You guys did well there. I'll give you the last one here. This one's tough, although you will appreciate it. I have never received enough love from fantasy owners. I have scored double-digit fantasy points in 9 games this season and have been top 3 at my position every year since 2010.
What?
People forget that this season I have more fantasy points than Jeremy Hill, Eddie Lacy, Michael Floyd, and Jason Witten. Who am I?
Top 3 in the last 5 years running?
No.
Yes, this is accurate.
What?
You guys got to get outside of your
All right,
Christmas boxes.
I think I've got my guess.
Yeah.
I have been a top 3.
I think I've got it.
Dun, dun,
What?
dun, dun.
No. If it wasn't for the first question, I would probably get this wrong. Of course, I might still get it wrong.
All right, go ahead, Jay.
I'm going to go Greg Olson.
Yeah.
It can't be a running back or a wide receiver. There's no way.
Greg Olson's only
I'll give you
been-
5 more seconds, and it is not a running back or wide receiver.
Okay.
5,
Antonio Gates?
4.
I was thinking
3,
Aaron Rodgers, but
2,
he had that injury.
1. What?
Give it to me.
Steven Gostkowski.
Oh, you trickster. Oh, what?
Oh, he has indeed been pretty incredible. Pretty
Wow.
consistent, lock
Yeah.
and load. I don't like kickers, but if you got to start one, why not the guy
I-
who's just the guy?
Yeah, I refuse to ever answer with a kicker because
I
they
know.
don't exist.
I had a
Also,
little
will
fun.
you do me a favor next Wednesday for the next quiz? Will you
Sure.
make Eric Decker the answer to one
So
of those questions?
You won't answer next week that way. That's what will happen.
Yeah.
So.
I've got one off the cuff here that I found an interesting little stat nugget the other day, so I wanted to see if you guys knew what this was.
All right.
Love it.
I am leading the NFL in completion percentage. I also have a 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio with over 3,500 yards in the air.
Completion percentage. And I'm trying to avoid the big names that used to be at the
Highest-
top of that list, which would have
highest
been like Drew
completion percentage.
Brees was at the top of that list.
Because he throws so much to the running back, I'm going Blake Bortles.
Okay.
I don't think his completion percentage is up there. I'm going to guess Derek Carr.
Derek Carr's been under 50% the last 2 weeks, just so you know. So that was a terrible guess.
Thank you.
All right.
However, the answer is Kirk Cousins.
Oh.
Kirk Cousins is leading the league in accuracy, and he has 22 touchdowns on 11 interceptions.
That's impressive. He may have a part in our show a little bit later on.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to give
To
him a little.
tease?
We'll give
All
him a
right,
little
let's
love
move
at
on.
the beginning.
News and notes from around the league.
All right, big news reported. Tyler Eifert will not play in Week 16 against the Broncos, and it's possible he doesn't play again until the playoffs. All right, find somebody else. Is that the story?
Yes, for sure.
You could play him.
Okay.
You'll get a 0, but you could play
You
him.
can play him if you're playing against me, please.
So that is a bummer for fantasy owners that got to ride Tyler Eifert so many weeks towards their playoffs, but now they have to find somebody else. So tight ends we like this week. We mentioned it a little bit yesterday. Will Tye is a guy that we have a lot of upside attached to.
Yep.
We'll go through some more on our starts and sits today. Day-to-day is the report on Drew Brees, torn plantar fascia. So this is the same type of injury that Peyton Manning underwent. You could see Brees was severely hurt on the field. He stayed on the field, and he still, I think, intends to play the final 2 games.
That's what he has said, but that is a situation to monitor.
Every single Ben Watson, Tim Hightower, Brandon Cooks, Willie Snead owner in the world is desperately pleading for Drew Brees to play in those games because it changes everything.
Makes a huge difference for whether or not you're playing, Willie Snead. If Drew Brees isn't there, I'm not playing Willie Snead. I mean, that's something you have to watch.
And
Tim
yeah.
Hightower is the only guy that and still takes a hit because you can load up more in the box. You're not so worried about the passing game, but at least he's still going to touch the ball.
The backup would be Matt Flynn.
It would be?
Yeah,
They're not going with the rookie?
That's what I have read.
That does not
Sources,
instill confidence.
sources say.
No confidence. Hey, Brian Hoyer is expected to practice on Wednesday, so all you Brandon Weeden owners out there are probably bummed out. So big news there for the division-leading Houston Texans. Who do they have this week? The Titans?
Yeah.
Yes, it's the Titans.
Yep.
So, hey, they might start running away with the division.
Which is just delightful.
All right, Sean Drone, knee injury isn't considered serious. Do you think he'll play this week?
I think he does. I was concerned there for the big salad.
They did
and-
sign DeJuan Harris.
Well, they signed DeJuan Harris and they cut Travaris Cadet, which was a little strange. So that implies to me they believe Sean Drone is okay.
With
Also-
that, when you said the word a little wrong there, it reminded me that yesterday on our website, Jason normally posts the episode of the website. I can't believe this is a point towards Jason being more accurate at typing, but it went up and you put, instead of streamers, you put steamers.
Yeah.
Not the same meaning. And so some people thought we were talking about Devontae Adams for most of the episode. You realize what happened there?
It was a rookie mistake. I apologize.
Stevie Johnson resumed practicing on Tuesday.
Steamers.
Would you stream Stevie Johnson?
No, not
No.
necessarily. But if he plays, that helps out Phillip Rivers for sure.
I think you just have better options that aren't as risky. All right, Jonathan Stewart, non-committal on Week 16 status. I know Ron Rivera came out and basically said he's fine with the idea of sitting him the remainder of the regular season to get him well. I think that's what takes place. I like Cameron Artis-Payne as a very a decent start. He was okay last week.
RB2? Or is that pushing it?
A flex, but kind of near the same place that Ivory's fallen to lately. Where he's going to get 10 to 15 touches. Most of them are going to be on the ground. But Artis-Payne caught a couple passes last week. He looked okay. There's no reason they wouldn't use him against Atlanta. He's definitely the guy that's worth using. You saw Fozzie wasn't used. Tolbert is on the field for snaps, but as a fullback a lot of the time. So, hey, Artis-Payne, would you take? Let me ask you this, Jason: Artis-Payne or Christine Michael this week?
I would go with Cameron Artis-Payne. This week, I think that the matchup is better, and he's going to get more of the share, I believe, than Kristen Michael would.
Do we have any other
That's a
news
hot take.
that we want to go over before we get into we have a special, a surprise, a
Yes.
Christmas surprise. that I'm gonna,
Andy has prepared something.
Well, I found it. I went to my chimney,
oh, okay.
and
I
this
didn't
morning
realize.
there was a little sack beneath there, and I opened it up, and there was a Christmas poem
Wow.
that someone had left.
Seriously?
Yeah, and I'm like, this
little
show's going to be like 4 hours long anyway. Let's just read it.
Yeah.
First off, you've never showed me your chimney.
I know. I have
You have
it.
a secret chimney?
Well, you see the fireplace downstairs.
Yeah, yeah.
It plugs into the chimney.
Have you called the cops or anything? Have you?
It's an electric chimney.
I'm not concerned about it because I read it, I previewed it, and it's so good.
Oh, all right. Well, I want to hear
It's
it.
an electric chimney. That's correct. Look, I know there are some holes in this story, but it's so magical that I couldn't remember much from it. So let's get to that before we get into everything else, and we'll see what you guys think.
Okay.
Okay? So I'm going to set the mood, of course.
Please.
Right.
Please do.
This is titled A Foot Clan Christmas by Anonymous. We don't.
Okay.
We just don't know.
The hacker group?
Yeah, it's by them.
Can we get the
They-
robot voice to read that? The poem.
You're ruining the mood,
Sorry,
Mike.
sorry.
Christmas. It's Christmas mood. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through my team, not a player was healthy, not even AJ Green. My roster so littered with Q's and with O's, in hopes that the waivers could solve all my woes. Yet all of these injuries can't wipe from my head visions of trophies nestled snug in my bed, of my friends from my league all mopey and sad, and my brother-in-law weeping 'cause I've whooped him so bad. Then suddenly, quickly, there arose such a sound that I sprang from my desk to see what was around, and away to my phone I flew like a flash, swiped straight to the right and discovered at last the glistening, gleaming, sweet sound been revealed. I giggled, I laughed, I snorted, I squealed. There, right before me, the sound that evaded, the song of a Johnson whose name starts with David. Of course, it's no matter who I start or I sit, as long as that tune never once leaves my lips. I'll piece it together, I'll stream and I'll sign. Sure, why not Abdullah? It might be his time. Now Cousins, now Taylor, now Woodhead and Reed. On Watkins, on Cooks, on Winston and Snead. To the top of the scoreboard, to the top of the league. I don't care who you are, if you'll give me 1 week. See, I've made it this far, yes, I've scraped and I've clawed, losing Foster and Lewis, Le'Veon and Jamal. The injuries kept coming, an endless pain cycle, and here my mouse sits, set to sign Christine Michael. If there's one thing that I've learned from this season of madness, it's that one David Johnson can cure all my sadness. So John Fox, be foxy, I've learned to accept it. I won't start Alshon because I know that you'll wreck it. I'll withstand a victory, this year it's my turn. I've stayed in the flames and now it's time to burn. No matter the roster, no worries or caution. I'll climb on his back and I'll ride David Johnson to a Foot Clan title and the glory that comes from beating my league with a team full of scrubs. I'll stream 1 more week because this is my time. Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night.
Oh, my goodness.
It's just magical, isn't it?
I can't believe that someone broke into your house and put that there. Santa, was that you?
If you're out there, thank you.
Santa! I know him.
All right,
Wow.
that is our Christmas surprise.
That was magic.
Did you like it?
I enjoyed that thoroughly.
All right, it's that time of year. We needed it. We needed that Christmas cheer. All right.
You need Christmas magic, you know?
Yes.
You do need that this championship week. All right, we are about to get to the sits of the week, the starts of the week, and spoiler, there might be a fantasy face-off in there.
Dun, dun, dun.
But before we get to that, we definitely need to take a second and thank our awesome sponsor, Harry's. Harry's.com is the best place for all of your shaving needs. Shaving can be such a pain, both literally on your skin and in your wallet. And Harry's is a wonderful sponsor. This isn't just a sponsor that, you know, we talk about like we've used it. We have. Andy uses Harry's. I have used Harry's. Harry's.com is the best place to get it. It's about half the price of all the other big brand blades, and they are the best of all the blades. The way that we're passionate about fantasy football, that's how Harry's is passionate about razors. They bought the factory in Germany because they were passionate about it. And they have a starter set. It's an amazing deal for $15. You get a razor, you get moisturizing shave cream, 3 razor blades. It's good for men, women on our legs. So here's what you do. Go to Harry's.com right now, and Harry's will give you $5 off if you type in our coupon code FOOTBALLERS with your first purchase. That's Harry's.com. Enter coupon code FOOTBALLERS at checkout for $5 off, and start shaving better today.
I heard Santa shaves his neck with Harry's.
Yeah.
At Harry's.com. So here we go. Let's get into it. The sits of the week, and then we got the starts of the week, and the fantasy forecast, and the mailbag, and it just keeps going.
We're going to be here till Christmas.
Sits of the Week.
Yeah. Till the end of the
missed,
season.
We missed that yesterday, Jason. We did. We missed it quite a bit. You sing much more than I have ever thought you did.
You know, there was a review once. It was like, I think it was mocking my singing. It was like, it's great, except that guy who always sings. And I was like, which one of us is that? I had no idea which one of us was the guy that breaks into song. I was like, is that Mike? Apparently, it's me.
Well, I just assumed it was Mike because he's the musician and
Right.
artist. And no, it's you. You sing more than Mike does. So, hey, all right, sits of the week. Let's make sure we remind people what these are, okay? This is not sit at all costs of the week. This is guys that we are fading on, some perspective we want to give you on them. A lot of the times what this means is that there are options other than these guys for you to start. That's what it normally means, is that you have somebody else that's better than these as options. And if you don't, they still might be the guy to start.
Absolutely. And we're picking guys that are generally started. I mean, we can give you guaranteed sit this guy because he doesn't do anything, but everybody's already sitting. We're trying
All right,
to find
I got to
guys.
get rid of Kerwin Williams now.
Yeah.
Great.
So yeah, these are guys that might be in your roster, and you might be making a decision. Don't take them. I'll start it off.
All right.
At the quarterback position, it is Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is our honorary sit of the week.
We said we'd keep it going for people.
for now and forever. But my real quarterback sit of the week this week is Brock Osweiler.
Sit of the Reek?
Sit of the week is Brock Osweiler. He had a monster game last week, and that was coming off a 300-plus yard game. So there are a lot of people in championships who stream their quarterbacks. If you listen to our show, you probably do. And Mike, 2 weeks ago, streamed Brock Osweiler. Then he had a big game last week.
So close.
And this is where I want to throw a little bit of shade on it because he's playing against the Bengals. The Bengals are down Eifert, might be down A.J. Green, have A.J. McCarron in there. They said, they're not going to change their playbook, but hogwash. They ran the ball over 30 times last week and threw it 20 or something right around there. This is going to be a low-scoring game. This is going to be a defensive game. So this is not a game you want to put Brock Osweiler in. Don't chase last week's points.
I think that's a good point, and I'm going to give you a guy as my quarterback sit of the week that I just don't have any confidence in terms of giving me a championship type of performance, and that's Alex Smith. He's had 2+ matchups the last 2 weeks with the Chargers and the Ravens, and he's put up in a 6-point per touchdown league 18 points and 17 points. And now he's got Cleveland, so everybody might be tempted to say, hey, it's Alex Smith. He's going to go destroy Cleveland. No, they destroy bad opponents a different way, and it's not with 4 or 5 touchdowns to Smith. So I'm staying in the fridge with Alex Smith.
I like that.
I'm just not going to start him. I'm going to let somebody else do that.
Put him in the igloo.
That's right. So
And-
who's your guy?
And my quarterback, who I'm preferring to sit, is Tyrod Taylor. And this is simply, it's on the theory of with Jason. Good grief.
Jason Morris.
With Jason. A low over-under for this game. The Cowboys have a solid defense, and I just don't see a need of where Tyrod Taylor's going to have to open it up and let it rip. With Kellen Moore, you know that interceptions are coming for the Buffalo Bills. And I know Shady McCoy is probably out, but Carlos Williams is a more than capable backup. I just see a
I don't
lower
mind that.
score.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, Taylor, without McCoy, probably a little bit less in the screen game. And his whole fantasy game has been deep to Watkins and run the ball. And
will
Dallas
they
is
have
pretty,
Will they have to open it up like that?
Sure.
I just don't see it happening.
So why don't you give us your running back sit of the week, and then we'll grab Jason's in mind.
My running back sit of the week, Jeremy Hill. He's taken on Denver, and he was putrid the last 2 weeks. I know he got in the end zone twice, but
last 15 weeks.
yeah. But the last 2 weeks especially. Last week, 19 carries for 31 yards. That's a 1.6 average. That includes a 9-yard run.
Wow.
I mean, and a fumble. He was just bad. He is.
Was that stacking against letting McCarron throw the ball, make McCarron throw the
It's
ball?
very possible, but he has been putrid.
Yeah.
Wait,
And-
what was the yards per carry?
1.6. Are you going to
1.6.
So if he went 31 minus 9 of 2022. So I thought you were trying to figure out the math. Oh.
I was wanting to see what my start of the week ran for last week.
Your sit of the week.
My sit of the week. Yes, he ran a little bit better than Jeremy Hill. He ran for a good 2.09 yards per carry. He looked really, really overweight, and that's my boy Eddie Lacy. He was 11 for 23 against Oakland. Now, Oakland has been a good running defense, but here's the deal. He's facing Arizona, and they have been a very, very solid run defense. I don't trust Eddie Lacy this week. Now, he's the type. He's going to boom or bust. You look at his last 4 weeks, and he's got 21 points, then 1 point, then 23 points, then 3 points. I just don't want that in my championship game. I want, especially at the running back position, if I'm out of guys, I'm going to look for that on waiver type guys. But as far as my starters, I want to know, hey, this guy's going to get the ball a lot, and he's going to be good with it. He's got a decent matmatchup. So I'm not loving Eddie Lacy.
Eddie Lacy has made me very sad this year.
Guys, I have you both beat. My guy averaged 0.75 yards per carry.
Oh, you're the winner.
And his name is Lamar Miller. And here's why I don't like him. It has less to do with that single. Oh, yeah, you have to start him this week. You cannot trust anything in Miami. He had 18 snaps last week. Ajayi had 31 snaps. You're talking about the culmination of 4 years of grand misuse of Lamar Miller in Miami. I don't want to roll him out there. I don't know what Guns Mahoney's going to do. I don't know if it'll be – there were reports about a quad injury for Lamar Miller. And Dan Campbell came out and said it had nothing to do with him not being out there in the second half. Makes me feel great.
Does Dan Campbell do like curls during his press conferences? I'll admit I haven't watched, but I imagine him saying like, injury had nothing to do with that. And then he does like a clean and jerk.
I think Lamar Miller thinks he's a jerk. I'll tell you that. All right. My wide receiver sit of the week is Allen Hurns. It's Allen Hurns. Here's his past 5 weeks. He had 3, then 6, then a 0 when he was injured. He came back.
Take that out.
No, I'm just saying. And then 20 when he came back and 5 last week. He's almost dropped out of the wide receiver 2 stats-wise, okay, on the season. And, yes, he could have a great game against the Saints. I understand that. He's been good this year. But I'm looking at that trend, okay, and I've got 1 good week out of the last 5 plus a small amount of injury concern. It's just somebody that I would love to start Tyler Lockett over Allen Hurns this week, okay?
Yeah,
I'd like to start a Decker. I'd like to start a bunch of other players.
I'd like to start Decker just every
Well,
week.
there was a time when it was Hurns over Decker.
Yeah,
this year.
No, I really like what you're saying. You don't have time in the championship week to check out trends and be like, I'm just not sure about these guys.
Yeah, feel it out, you're saying.
And so that's very similar to what I've got in my sit of the week right now in Jordan Matthews at wide receiver. Jordan Matthews, man, he looked great last game. He caught 8 balls, a lot of yards, got a breakaway touchdown, over 100. So it's like, is this the new norm? Is this the beginning of a new trend? I don't have time to check that out and see if it is, because most of his games he's been getting 3 receptions, and I don't want that from my wide receiver. I am not going to chase last week yet again with Jordan Matthews in the championship week.
And I'm going to sit an entire group, and that is T.Y. Hilton and the Colts pass catchers. Here's T.Y. Hilton. In the last 5 weeks, these include games of 2 for 21, 3 for 36, and 3 for 29. I cannot trust T.Y. Hilton right now. The reports are that Matt Hasselbeck will indeed start again. There's no way he finishes. I don't know what they're doing in Indianapolis. I understand that Matt Hasselbeck is a better quarterback than Charlie Whitehurst, but at some point you have to have consideration for Matt Hasselbeck as a human being.
But Mike, T.Y. Hilton, he's gone 3 points, then 23, then 5, then 15, then 4. So doesn't that mean he's going to have a big blow-up game?
He's riding the hills?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Could he? Sure. Am I going to trust that? No, not at all. Not at all.
I'm glad we got that taken care of. All right, tight end sits this week. I'm going to hold off on telling you mine because Mike and I disagree a lot about this guy.
We sure do.
Mike has him as his start of the week, and I have him as my sit. And so the fantasy world out there, the listeners, they might say things like, boy, I wish you guys would just agree on everything, and then I'd know who to play. But the truth of the matter is it's interpretive, right? You look at the data, and you're reading that, and we both are kind of interpreting differently this tight end. So I will save that. We will get to our starts, and then we will have a little bit of a face-off about this guy. So you guys are up. Tight end sit of the week.
Go, Jay.
My tight end sit of the week this week is Austin Seferian-Jenkins. He got he got a touchdown last week. He is used in the red zone. So I'm not saying that you can't start this guy if you're desperate. He is a red zone target, and you need that for guys that you start. But in a championship week, I really hope you have better than ASJ. If you've got a guy that gets volume, I want that more. Because we're talking about 3 weeks straight that he's had 3 total catches every week. I mean, in the last month, he hasn't had 10 total catches. That's just not a guy I want to ride in my championship game.
As much as I like him, he hasn't materialized into the target levels that you would have thought with Vincent Jackson going down and him getting healthy. So I can't really argue with the numbers. You have to follow the numbers.
Yeah, I'm looking at those. He's had 6 targets the last 3 weeks, and the week where he blew up for 110 yards, he had 7 targets. So that's not a target volume of a guy that you can expect a monster.
You're talking
game.
about from week 1?
Correct.
Week 1, if you go back and watch the tape too, it was one of the plays was a completely broken tackle.
Right.
I mean, it was not like a normal play for
Yeah,
us.
so I agree. He's a guy you can play if you're really stuck, but you got to lower your expectations.
All right. We'll get in, and then we'll talk about mine here in a little bit with Mike.
Starts of the week.
All right. These are guys we like a lot this week. If you don't have better options, these are guys that might slide up your board based on what we're telling you here. So, Jason.
Yo.
Why do you like Phillip Rivers?
Oh, Phillip Rivers is my quarterback start of the week. I really like him, and the number one reason I like him is Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon has been placed on injured reserve. They have, since I don't blame San Diego for doing what they've done by taking Danny Woodhead, a really great, capable, high-performing player, and putting him completely to the wayside and saying, hey, we drafted this rookie in the first round in Melvin Gordon. I got to give him the ball over and over and over and try and keep trying to be this running team that we're not. Well, Melvin Gordon's gone, which means Danny Woodhead is back. We saw last week Danny Woodhead went completely nuts. And so now you've got Stevie Johnson coming back. He's practicing, might be on the field. Danny Woodhead out there. And this is a matchup where I expect a lot of points on the board. You saw him go nuts last week. So I think Phillip Rivers is a high potential play.
Now, you were a Thursday night decision with Phillip Rivers.
That's the one thing I really don't enjoy about it. But I like Phillip Rivers more than several other quarterbacks that are in the conversation of saying, hey, do I start Phillip Rivers or Eli Manning? I would rather have Phillip Rivers. I think his matchup is better. Alex Smith or Ryan Tannehill.
You have
who
Rivers.
can't trust.
You have Rivers ahead of Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah,
Alex Smith. So my quarterback start of the week is Captain Kirk.
Whee!
Hey, he faces Philadelphia. You heard the stat earlier, leading the league in completion percentage. 2 straight 300-yard games. I got him ahead of guys like Derek Carr, ahead of guys like Ryan Fitzpatrick, Tyrod Taylor this week. I think Kirk Cousins is a great start. You got the Saturday night game, and I'm going to ride him. I'm going to ride Kirk Cousins. If you're streaming this week, I don't mind it.
And if you want to buy into history, if you recall, I think it was last year. Yeah, it had to have been last year when Kirk Cousins went completely bananas. That was against Philadelphia when he had the 4 or 5 touchdown passes. My quarterback start of the week, I'm going with Matt Stafford. The last 4 weeks, he's had at least 220 yards and 2 touchdowns,
Which is incredible because he's had no Calvin Johnson.
Yeah, that's a very great point. Golden Tate has been just fantastic. And in those 4 weeks, only 1 interception. Matt Stafford really has turned around his season since they made the offensive coaching changes. So
He's got the 49ers this week at home.
He's got a good matchup at home. So he's a guy that I think you can start if you are in a pinch. Now to my running back, I'm going out a little bit on the limbs here. I'm going with Alfred Blue. Oof. Now, why is this on the limbs? Well, you know why.
Yeah, because
his name is Alfred Blue, and he can severely disappoint you. But let's say you're in the running back purgatory, and your waiver wire has been picked clean. Alfred Blue had 20 carries for 107 last week. The coach came out and said, complimented his running style.
Said he ran really hard.
Profusely, which you don't always get. And they're taking on Tennessee. You get the Houston defense against Zach Mettenberger. I expect the game flow to point to Houston having to run which is going to get Alfred Blue carries. If Alfred Blue gets volume and carries, then he has a good fantasy day.
Yeah, I feel like that would be hard for me to start Alfred Blue, but I mean, your logic is sound. It could definitely happen, but I would be just afraid because.
Would you start Alfred Blue or Christine Michael?
Oh man, that's very tough right there. There's an
You have to imagine far less carries for Michael, but maybe more efficiency.
Yeah, and you never know. You never know with either of these teams what's going to happen with the running backs. I would, if I have them both on my roster, I think Michael has the more upside, but I would lean. I guess I would lean Michael right now if I have to pick between the two.
So we're in championship weeks. I wanted to pick a guy that I've been seeing in questions. I get a lot of questions with 4 running backs, and this is one guy that's in a list of decisions very often, and that is Charcandrick West. Charcandrick West this week I love. I am with Andy in not liking Alex Smith in this juicy matchup against the hapless Browns. I'm not that high on Jeremy Maclin because the Kansas City Chiefs they prefer to be a run-the-ball, control-the-clock defensive team. And they're going to be able to run the ball on the Browns, who are the worst run defense in the league. So I think Charcandrick West here, we've seen 2 weeks in a row him break a long touchdown. One was called back 2 weeks ago, but last week it counted. And this week I expect big, big things for Charcandrick West. I can't imagine me having any running back combo that gets me to sit Charcandrick West this week. I mean, there are, but it's going to be few and far between.
I love Char West. I loved him last week. People need to understand that Spencer Ware, obviously he was banged up last week. I think he active, but
yes,
emergency,
active, but I don't
right?
even think he played.
It's not going to be much different. He's facing a very tough injury on the ribs.
And Char West, he's my number 1 guy.
He's your number 1 this week.
He's my number 1.
Wow. All right.
I love him.
Look, my guy, my start of the week is Latavius Murray against San Diego here on Thursday night. San Diego's given up 14 touchdowns to running backs in 14 games played this year. Latavius Murray, other than his game with Denver, Murray has produced at least 77 total yards or a touchdown in every game since the bye week. He ran at a good clip, about 4 carry last week. I like Latavius Murray this week. I think the game flow and stuff is going to trend the right way. Jason is grimacing.
Well, I play against Latavius Murray this week. So.
I did notice that there were several
of the sits on my roster and a couple of the starts on the roster I'm facing. This is no bueno.
Yeah, so Brandon Cooks is my wide receiver start of the week. You saw it on the television screen on Monday night. He looked great. 100+ and a score twice in the last 3 games. Really ascending right now. Faces Jacksonville. Shootout potential with Jacksonville and Bortles and that offense against New Orleans. But obviously Drew Brees has to be healthy to play Brandon Cooks.
Right
now he's number 12. He's a wide receiver 1 on the year.
Is that from our league or is that every league?
It's not every league, probably.
Or at least half point. At least half
yes,
point
in
PPR.
a half point PPR, he is number 12.
The Gruden grinder at the end of that game, the award went to Darius Slay because Darius Slay played unbelievably good defense and was matched up against Cooks all game. And Cooks went for over 100 yards and
10 catches.
I mean, when you've got that kind of a matchup and that kind of defense against a guy and he's still producing at that level, you've got a guy that you do not sit under any circumstances.
Standard, he's actually 11.
There you go.
Yeah, so who's your wide receiver start of the week, Jason?
Oh, I'm rolling my same one from
And when
last
I saw
week.
one of the numbers that you're going to bust out, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. Well, Ted Ginn Jr., who was my start of the week last week and came on strong, is my start of the week again this week. You got to stay in the flames with him. He is the number 1 target for Cam. It's official. Sometimes he spread it around. Last week, he had 14 targets.
That was the number. I feel like that can't be right.
I'm verifying
Bet
this.
it. He had 2 red zone touchdowns.
This is accurate.
Wow.
14 targets last week.
That's the number that blew my mind.
For the high-power Carolina offense, he is top 5 wide receiver lately. He scores. He's in the red zone. He even dropped like a 48-yard wide-open bomb touchdown, and still got it. And not all of his touchdowns are coming from bombs anymore.
6 catches on 14 targets.
Yes, but it's not the
But,
best.
the,
good.
not- but the
They're good,
target
though.
number changes his equation. He's got 2 touchdowns in each of the last 3 weeks, but now you know he's going to get the targets.
And 2 weeks ago when they played Atlanta, he went completely nuts, and he's playing Atlanta again. So I think if you've got Ted Ginn, you've got a guy that you know is going to score. I mean, over under, what are the odds that he gets a touchdown this game? I think they're pretty darn good.
Yeah, I'd agree they are.
They're near Doug Baldwin-esque.
Yeah, so start
whoa.
start
The
Ted
NFL
Ginn.
actually will stop the game now if Doug Baldwin doesn't have a touchdown by the end of the first half, and they will just
We're
give
going
him,
to overtime.
they'll just give him one.
Like, Seattle's up by 20. Nope, we're
Nope.
going to overtime.
Yeah, Dougie doesn't have one.
My wide receiver start of the week, I'm going with Deshaun Jackson. He has scored in 4 of the last 5 games. The Philly defense is in shambles. And as I was talking about at the top of the show, Kirk Cousins playing at a very high level right now with the highest completion percentage in the league. And that's just it's something I want a part of that offense who's playing against Philly in the passing game.
They're
and Deshaun
competing
Jackson is
for
it.
something. They're playing
Absolutely.
for something. It's not a
Washington-
meaningless game.
Washington wins this game, they're in the playoffs. So I
Kinda
love
matters.
him.
All right. As
We'll
a person,
let
right?
Jason-
You love him as a person.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll let Jason go because then we got to.
We'll
I'll
have our-
let you two go, and then we'll do our tight end
All
talking.
right.
All right, so for my tight end start of the week, I love this guy. He's not going to be able to be on waivers, but if you've got him, you probably have him and someone else. Start Julius Thomas. He has been the number 3 tight end. He's the 3rd best tight end since week 11. He is playing great football. He's getting receptions, he's getting targets, he's getting touchdowns. Everything you want, he is producing on, and I love that they're calling plays for him. You watch the game, and what used to go to Hearns or even
That's
some
what
of
I
Robinson.
was about to say.
it
Hearns' numbers
is
are tied in.
over to Julius Thomas, and he's playing the worst team against tight ends this week. It is a glorious matchup. He could be the number 1 tight end this week. I wouldn't put him ahead of Gronk ever, just because
Olsen,
he's
Reed,
Gronk.
but yeah.
he's great. So start with confidence, Julius Thomas.
I'm going to go with Zach Miller as my start of the week. If Alshon sits or is limited, here's a guy with 5 and 6 catches the past 2 weeks. We saw a little bit of upside in terms of touchdowns earlier in I forgot Jason's playing against him too.
This is the worst.
So, look, if you got to hope Alshon's out there, obviously, but if he's not, Zach Miller, I like him even more. I think his baseline's pretty good right now with a few catches. I'd start him over a lot of guys. I'd start him over, I don't know, let's say Richard Rodgers, for example.
That's fair.
Fantasy Face Off.
All right, so we disagree. You and I disagree fundamentally. Your start of the week and my sit of the week at the tight end position
That is correct.
is Richard Rodgers. Now, we have different reasons for each, so I will acquiesce. I will let you explain why you like him, and I will explain why I don't.
All right, so for Richard Rodgers, why I think he has some nice upside this week. 3 of the last 4 weeks, here are the tight end numbers against the Arizona defense. 9 catches, 138 yards, and a touchdown. 9 catches, 144 yards. 10 catches, 109 yards, and a touchdown. And the Arizona defense has lost possibly their best defender. And I'm saying that over Patrick Peterson and Tyrann Mathieu, who is, if you watch the Arizona defense play, he's a part of nearly every single play. He's a huge part of what they do, so that's a massive hit to their defense. And we just over the last few weeks, I think teams have figured out they can exploit Arizona using their tight end, where perhaps the beginning of the year was more of a mirage, where for years Arizona has been horrific against the tight end, and they were actually doing pretty well. But then you saw Minnesota, a team that had 0 passing game coming into the week, and tight end screens were going all over the place, going for huge plays, chunk yardage. So I think that Richard Rodgers absolutely has a chance here.
Okay, so so you're going with the trend of the Arizona defense and counting on the Green Bay offense to exploit that trend.
Correct.
Is that accurate? And for me, I'm going more the trend of the offense in Green Bay and the change in play calling by Mike McCarthy. Since he's took over, Richard Rodgers has 1 catch. 1 catch each week. Even you used to be able to say, okay, well, if he gets you a touchdown, you're fine. 1 for 3 and a touchdown, that's still a pretty bad game. If you remove the outlier, and it is an outlier. His
I agree
his
with
8
that.
for 146 game with the Hail Mary, 2, 5, 6.8, 1.2 in the league format. I don't want a guy that's caught the ball one time each of the last 2 weeks. I'm not going to let that talk me into it just because of a trend on the other side of the ball. And the targets have been down. Without McCarthy, 9, 5, 5, 7, 8. With McCarthy calling plays, 2 targets, 4 targets. So it's just a matter of I feel like a better option's out there. I'm not going to bank on Tyrann Mathieu and the Cardinals not being able to make a different adjustment there.
All right, let me judge it.
Okay.
When Mike came on with his hot takes about Tyrann Mathieu and the waning tight end defense for Arizona, he won it.
Oh.
Until Andy came in and said, Richard Rodgers stinks. He doesn't get targets or receptions anymore.
So I won until he had a turn to go.
Yes. And then Andy, he got up off of the mat and he struck you across the face and you fell down and you both fell down. And so for me, I'm going to steer clear. I think Andy won. But you decide.
There you go. So that we don't like to just blindly agree with one another because we know some things can look at Alex Smith. You know what I mean? You could just, he's got a great matchup. He's going to be great. Well, you can't just do that. We don't like to let that happen. And you guys can decide for yourselves.
And the best part of this is that we have Richard Rodgers ranked very, very similarly.
Yep.
I just think that he has, if you're scrambling, I think he has upside potential.
Yeah.
And Andy does not.
Right. And he could score a touchdown or something, but I just don't. I doubt it. So we'll move on. That was fun. We'll get into what do we got next? The forecast?
The forecast. What do you mean?
Fantasy Forecast.
Oh,
you guys do some stretching?
You got to stretch it out real quick.
Now, good news is there's only one NFL game this week.
Woohoo! Short megalodon.
It's the Pro Bowl.
Oh, you know what?
They're doing
Speaking
the
of
Pro
the
Bowl.
Pro Bowl, I'm just going to throw this out there. You know who didn't make the Pro Bowl? Who's been a fantastic, unbelievably good wide receiver this year?
Oh.
Allen Robinson.
Allen Robinson didn't make the Pro Bowl?
He did not make the Pro Bowl, and so I'm just saying,
Wow.
if you are the Jags out of
Shameful.
the playoffs, you got this young up and comer. He doesn't make the Pro Bowl. What do you go and what do you
Feed
do?
the beast.
Yeah,
man.
you go. Oh, NFL, you made a mistake. He's coming in.
69 catches, 1,100 yards, 13 touchdowns with 2 weeks left.
Yeah, and so I'm thinking he's going to be fed like the target monster he is
Pro
this
Bowl,
week.
Schmo Bowl.
Start of the week, Allen Robinson.
Andy Dalton and Doug Baldwin. Andy Dalton and Doug Baldwin also missed the Pro Bowl.
The Doug Baldwin is fair because the voting is done a little bit earlier.
And shamefully, David Johnson.
Well, it's same
No, I'm
same
just
reason
kidding.
with Baldwin.
Because these guys, Al Robinson's the big snub there.
Yes,
That's ridiculous to
yes,
me.
I agree.
So he's been so good. All right, let's start with the Thursday night game. The Chargers take on the Raiders.
Whew.
All right.
Oh
The
man.
Raiders are favored by 5.5 points. The over-under on the game's 47. The weather should be good. We've got Rivers. We've got Carr. What do you think of Carr in this game?
I can dig it because Carr lit them up when coming into that game. San Diego was considered one of the better passing defenses in the league, and Derek Carr came in and just shredded them immediately. And it wasn't many cuts over the game. It was a huge pouring of touchdowns. So I can like Derek Carr. I do have a little bit of concern for Amari Cooper.
As do I.
Jason Verrett is now, if you look at Pro Football Focus, is now the highest graded DB, and he has been a emerging tremendous shutdown talent. I'm not going to let that one guy stop me from playing Derek Carr or completely stop me from playing Cooper. I just know that I have adjusted my expectations for what the rookie can do this week.
I have ranked Crabtree ahead of Cooper in my rankings this week.
I believe I have it that way as well.
Yeah, I think I just looked at my rankings a couple minutes ago and noticed that I had Cooper ahead of Crabtree during the show and thought, I need to change that. So I think we're all in agreement here that Crabtree is probably the safer play between the two. The one thing that I do see
Cooper
from
had
this
a huge game last time, and you made the point last time when they played They utilized him in the right way to keep him out of those matchups. So he had a huge game. Crabtree was 6 for 63 and a touchdown. Cooper was 5 for 133 and a touchdown.
And the Chargers have only gotten less healthy. I mean, they've only lost more players, and so I don't see them putting up a better fight this time around than last time. Last time, this game had 66 points scored, 37-29. So this has the potential to be one of those back and forth offense versus offense battles, because while the Raiders' run defense has been really stellar, I don't think the Chargers are going to run the ball more than 5 times. I mean, who do they have to run? I mean,
Donald Brown.
Yeah, I mean, obviously hyperbole, but that's why I like Phillip Rivers. I actually do like Derek Carr, another player I'm going up against this week. I hate my matchups this week in my championship.
So Danny Woodhead, the running back situation in San Diego, what do people do with him? Who do they start Danny Woodhead above? Do you start him over Bilal Powell?
Ooh, yeah.
Because consensus-wise, we have Bilal Powell 1 spot ahead of Woodhead, mostly because Mike has Woodhead rated lower than we do.
Are we talking standard or are we talking PPR?
That is standard. That's a good point.
So I mean,
but in PPR, Bilal Powell, you have he's even higher. I mean, Powell goes up to 9, Woodhead at 12 in PPR.
Okay.
So that's the category of decision making that needs to take place right now. Is people Woodhead, Powell, White, all the same type of player. Christine Michael's in the mix there. Lacey, Ivory, Matthews. How much do we think Woodhead's? We don't want to chase 4 touchdowns when a guy's been pitiful.
No. You can't chase 4 touchdowns, but the workload has to increase. They're not going to have a choice. Donald Brown will see some snaps, but we've seen over the course of the year. Look at the beginning of the year when it was Melvin Gordon and Danny Woodhead. Danny Woodhead was the guy getting the bulk of the work because they were getting Melvin Gordon ready as the rookie. It wasn't Donald Brown. Donald Brown was not a factor at all. So I believe that Woodhead has tremendous upside this week. So
yeah, he could be a guy that, if things go the right way, win you a title.
Yep.
Yeah, because of the kind of numbers you saw last week. Now, the thing about Woodhead, Thursday night game, you're going to get an indication of his performance early. If you start him, it's going to help you make adjustments to your roster later in the week. If he puts up a big game, maybe you play safer guys. If he puts up a worse game, those are some of the decisions that take place. Now, what about Donald Brown?
I can't trust Donald Brown not knowing how he's going to be used, how much he's going to be used, and going against an Oakland Raiders defense that has just completely been shutting down the run. I just talked about what they did to Eddie Lacy, who had been running well. They've been doing that ever since they got gashed by Adrian Peterson. Since then, it's like they're giving up.
They're like 3 or 4, like
3 yards
a carry, yeah.
And probably under 3 now after that Eddie Lacy game. So I can't start. I can't start that kind of risk.
I can't start that. All right, so like you said, the Raiders have been climbing. Run defense is 13th in the league right now. Now the Chargers have the 11th ranked pass defense, so that's where the kind of disparity happens. One more guy, I mentioned him as my start of the week, but do you guys agree on Latavius Murray or no?
Yeah, I like Latavius Murray a lot. The Chargers can't defend the run very well, and he has been solid all year.
Yeah, I don't like him nearly as much as you guys, but he's in the 2 conversation for me. He's a start this week.
All right, let's get to the curiously named Thursday night football game that takes place on Saturday night. The Saturday edition of Thursday Night Football.
It's somebody with
it's branding, yo.
It sounds like a cartoon character when you say it's Saturday.
Is that what I said?
No, that's what I said.
Oh, okay. Well, it is.
I'm combining.
It's Saturday's Thursday Night Football. The Redskins take on the Eagles. Humongous game with implications for the division. So, we've talked a little bit about it. I like Cousins. He's my start of the week at the quarterback position. You like Deshaun Jackson. How do you not love Rule 86 right now? He is carrying. If there's somebody else, like David Johnson took the cake last week in terms of headlines, Rule 86, Jordan Reed should have been as well. If you had Jordan Reed going up against Gronk, you almost doubled up on him.
Yeah, Jordan Reed has been unbelievable. The Eagles have been giving it up through the air. And while they are good against the tight end normally, they even had a couple plays against the Cardinals, who aren't a great tight end team last week, where they gave up a lot of yards. So Rule 86 is a guy you can bank on. Here's my worry, about Kirk Cousins. This is a really important game, and it's a home game for the Eagles. if you guys look at the splits of how Washington has been at home and on the road,
It's very fair.
they are completely different teams. I think the Eagles are going to win this game because of that home field advantage. Where do you guys stand? I know that's not necessarily fantasy, but that has an impact as far as how we think game flow is going to happen, which doesn't, the team that wins
Right.
doesn't normally you can have a great quarterback performance on the losing effort.
I would lean to Washington winning. I know they're the dogs. I just think that Kirk Cousins he's been so efficient, and on top of that, you got the Eagles' run defense, which is bad. We saw last week, Alfred Morris can take advantage of a good matchup, and between him and Matt Jones, you never really know. I like Morris this week. I think he's an okay start in your flex position if you need it, because that's, like I said, it's a desperate situation of you don't know if it's going to be Morris or Jones. But when you add all that up and just the implosion that's going on in Philadelphia with personnel and the team, I lean towards Washington winning.
What running backs do you start from this
From
game?
Philadelphia? Or
No, from I mean, you, Andy, you said
I like
that you're
Ryan
fine.
Matthews. I do. I like Ryan Matthews in this game. Washington's run defense is ranked very poorly, and I think Matthews makes the most of his carries, and he'll have plenty to make the most of.
I agree. And he's the only running back that I like on both sides of the ball here. I'm not wanting to start Darren Sproles. I'm wanting to steer clear of the Washington run.
That's fair.
If we look at the entire year from week 1 on, the amount of conversations we've had over who is it, Alfred Morris or Matt Jones, it just goes back and forth. And I don't know that anyone has gotten it right. It's just so difficult to trust that in a championship week. I'd much rather start Cameron Artis-Payne, who I know is going to get me the ball and not put up a goose egg, than either Matt Jones or Alfred Morris.
There's literally no upside to Alfred Morris. There has not been one game in the season in which you could say he had upside. Even his best games with 25 carries, 121 yards, no touchdowns, he peaked this year in our half-point PPR league at 14 points. So I'm with you completely. I've taken the running back core at Washington, and like an NFL team during the draft, I've put him on my do not list.
You put him in the shoebox?
Yeah, I'm putting him in the shoebox because it's not going to happen. I'm not going to guess right. It's not going to be the one game in 10 that Matt Jones catches a screen pass and takes it to the house and doesn't fumble or get himself in the doghouse. It's just not worth it to me. I do agree with Mike. He might take advantage of it. They might both take advantage of it. They'll probably both score about 5 or 6 points, and Washington might win the game. I think it'll be a very close game. I think it'll be very close. It might come down to the end. So and the home field advantage, it's going to matter. So
And we like, or at least I like, I'm not going to speak for you. I like Zach Ertz this week.
I do like Zach
I think
Ertz.
he's getting more involved, and he is a weapon who can actually catch the ball.
I said this before the show. I said that I had a different sit of the week in and deleted him out because I went back and rethought it, and that was Zach Ertz. I put Zach Ertz in as my sit of the week originally because there were just some things I didn't like, but then he's just been used so much. He's obviously, based on that, he's really in the middle for me. I would rather have other guys, but he has enough targets where I would much rather start him over ASJ, who I put in, because I think there's far more usage and potential there for a big game.
all right, so let's move on to the Colts taking on the Dolphins in this exciting matchup.
Well, it's important for the
I was waiting for the laughter. I thought you all bought in.
I did.
You're like, oh, I got to watch it.
Here's what I was doing. I was counting the amount of games that are left, and it's a lot.
Did
cover.
you happen to see SNL? They had done the Republican debate
Yes,
opening.
Yes, you showed.
Do you remember the glasses that they have
Oh,
on
Ben Carson.
on Ben Carson that make him look like you're awake? Those are the glasses I put on when I flip over to this game. Just so that the
Trust me, I'm watching.
Yeah. So Hasselbeck, Tannehill. You mentioned Tannehill as a guy you were okay streaming yesterday. I'm still not in that camp. Frank Gore, Lamar Miller,
in
Jay Ajayi.
desperation. If you're desperate.
All right, so the Lamar Miller story, it's the hardest one in all of fantasy football right now because he got you here in a lot of ways. He makes you pull your hair out. He's still sitting on your bench will make you wonder if you don't play him. I mean, even though he's my sit of the week and I wouldn't play him, that doesn't mean I wouldn't play him over Alfred Morris.
Right.
because his upside is so great. Or let me look at some other guys here.
Let me give you some guys here, Andy, because
Sure.
I have Lamar Miller. As of right now,
Let me give you my roster, Andy.
as of right now, I am planning to start Lamar Miller. I'm gonna wait and see. But would you rather start Lamar Miller or Chris Ivory?
I would rather start Chris Ivory.
Would you rather start Lamar Miller or Jeremy Hill?
Ooh.
I will take, because of the matchup, I will take Lamar Miller.
Danny Woodhead.
I will take Woodhead.
James White.
I will take James White in half point and full point.
Okay.
All right.
And I am in a title game as well where I have to play Lamar Miller, and I'm not happy about it.
Okay,
But
that's
I'm-
probably what a lot of people are in.
But
It's
I'm
not,
playing him.
It's not like you can force an injury on him. You know what I mean? Like there aren't a lot of options in a lot of leagues.
And I'm not grabbing Kristen Michael, Bryce Brown.
That's the question,
Artist Payne.
yeah.
I'm not grabbing those guys off the wire and playing them over Lamar Miller.
You wouldn't play. Okay.
And
No,
here's
definitely not.
Here's what I think is important. I know he came out and said that it wasn't because of the injury, but practice matters to coaches, and so we are over this week. Today is going to be our last recording. If you're a Lamar Miller owner and you have options, I personally think that his practice participation makes a big difference. And I have told other people this because it's what I'm doing. If I see Lamar Miller is practicing in full, I'm starting him with confidence in a juicy matchup, and I think he's going to be okay. If he's limited or missing practices, then I'm probably going to bench him and side elsewhere. So that's just a helpful tip to everybody. You can just Google NFL practice reports, and you can find they're out there, and it just says limited participant, full participant. If you don't have that in your repertoire of things you do, that's really helpful for guys like this.
All right, another guy worth mentioning, you're starting Jarvis Landry because he's Jarvis Landry, but Devontae Parker, somebody who had an okay game again last week, 87 yards receiving, not a lot of targets and catches. You know, we have him outside the flex range right now, outside the wide receiver 3 range. I don't think I want him out there for my championship week.
I agree.
Would you like Dorial Green-Beckham or Devontae Parker this week?
I'll go with Green Beckham.
As will I.
He's shown it. So
Yeah, we have Green Beckham just inside the wide receiver 3 flex area. Anybody else from this game that's worth mentioning before we move on to the Bears-Buccaneers?
How do you feel about Frank Gore?
I will play him,
yeah,
and I will take my 8 points.
It's like Lamar Miller. I'm gonna play him. I'm not happy about it, but
I thought that's what you were going to ask me. I thought you were going to ask me Lamar Miller or Frank Gore. And
Okay, Lamar Miller or Frank Gore?
Frank Gore.
Because I got both of these guys in my championship.
You know, he's a little micro. He's a little focused.
A little
on,
focused.
And your own matchup.
Everybody
today.
out there that's in the championship is a little focused right now.
Yeah, I don't
on
blame
your
you.
team.
No.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That's
Ba-
what he wants.
Bears at the Buccaneers. Buccaneers are favored in this game. It's at home. You've got Cutler Winston. Weather won't be an issue. There's a lot of debate right now about Matt Forte and Jeremy Langford and who's the guy you really want to start. Mike, to your credit, you have the courage of a lion. You have ranked Jeremy Langford very high. You have him just outside a running back 1 this week.
I do.
You have him at 16.
Wow.
That's always good. That's
So-
great.
Well,
Comment.
'cause I put the
A
numbers.
lot
and
of
I hadn't looked at it.
courageous people often say, "What? Wait, huh?"
Yeah, that's very courageous of
So
me.
you have him very high. We have him lower. I like Forte. I take Forte over Langford. But what is your guys' kind of pulse to this situation?
I have Forte over Langford. I'm just
Okay, where do you
Make-
have Forte and Langford in your?
I have Forte at 7 in standard, and Langford at 16 right now, which that's probably a bit too high for Jeremy Langford. I like the situation for the running backs. I think Forte has been playing quite well. It's a split type of a thing. I know the Bucs they're a pretty good run defense. They handled Todd Gurley decently last week. I just see a situation for the Bears where they might want to see what Langford can do. This is where they have nothing to play for in the real NFL season. They're playing for the future. Let's check it out. Do we want to extend Matt Forte, Are we comfortable with Jeremy Langford moving forward? So I'm buying into that narrative a little bit.
Sure. And now, to me, the big storyline of this game is I think Doug Martin eats. I think Charles Sims has a good game as well. This is a rush defense that is polar opposite to their pass defense with Chicago. They have a bad rush D. They have a great pass D. We know those things kind of work together. But at home, Tampa Bay, I think they'll control this game a little bit. And I think Doug Martin has a lot of upside. Not that you're sitting him, but start him with confidence.
Yes, I completely agree.
All right. All right. No arguments there. Mike Evans, he's in your lineup. Talked about ASJ earlier. Zach Miller is my start of the week at tight end.
I like Mike Evans a lot just from a target standpoint. The Bears are a top passing defense when it comes to giving up yardage, but he only throws to Evans basically.
Yeah, if you're outside of the red zone, it's like 80% of the targets go to Mike Evans. No. I'm just saying that's what I saw. There was definitely bitterness there as well, but I'm speaking that more to Mike Evans' credit. There are so many passes that go his direction that he has to have a good game. With Vincent Jackson out, Mike Evans is just a surefire double-digit target guy. So, and when you've got a guy that's 6'5" who gets double-digit targets, you have to be confident that he's going to put up good fantasy numbers.
Jameis Winston threw for 363 yards last week. Mike Evans had 157 of them.
Yep. Gotta love that. That's championship type of performance for your team. Got him past me, that's for sure. That was a big game. Alshon Jeffrey, if he sits, does somebody in the wide receiver core benefit? I mean, Royal had 5 catches last week, but 31 yards, right?
Yeah.
So is this more like would you have more confidence in Zach Miller, like I had said earlier, or is this just a ho-hum too bad for Alshon Jeffrey?
I don't have confidence in that passing game if Alshon sits.
And we had said Cutler was a possible stream, but only if Alshon's available.
Correct. Yes.
Yes, for sure. The one guy that I get a little bit more confidence in, weirdly, would be Matt Forte. Matt Forte is a scary guy to me. He's put up good weeks, 3 in a row, 3 good weeks, but they've come on the back of touchdowns. And you have, he had 21 carries 3 weeks ago, 10 carries the previous week, and then last week it went down to 8 carries, and that's scary. But what happened is when Alshon kind of got pulled, he got 6 catches, and so if Alshon's out, Jay Cutler's got to dump the ball somewhere.
Yep.
And I
6
think
for
that's
57 through the air.
Yeah, that's where Forte benefits. If
right.
Alshon's in, I don't know.
I kind of like that we did the sits and the starts before the forecast, because some of these discussions have been had with certain players that lets us get through the matchups and focus on different guys versus kind of repeating ourselves about players. So the Browns and the Chiefs are monster favorites, 13-point favorites. The Chiefs still got a chance to win the division. They are playing so good. They have
What are the records? Do you happen to know off the top of your head?
Yeah, between them and Denver?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're a game behind.
Woof.
So
Surgeon.
Yeah, and the Broncos play Cincinnati this week on Monday night, and the Chiefs take on the Browns at home, and they have the tiebreaker. The Chiefs have the tiebreaker over the Broncos.
I would rather play the Browns.
You are
Against
a bold
the Browns.
man.
That's a hot take.
All right, this will be a cold game, but no big weather concerns at Arrowhead. We've talked about Alex Smith, the reasons why I'm not confident in him. We talked about Char West, the reasons why we love him in this matchup. It all stacks up. The Browns are the 31st against the run. They're the 22nd against the pass. They just don't play much defense.
Let's talk Gary Barnidge.
Love him.
Barnage.
You love Gary Barnidge.
Love Gary Barnidge.
Even against the...
Gary Barnidge has done everything he needs to do to get my trust and approval this season, including last week, the last few weeks with Manziel. They will move the ball a couple of times down the field, and just like Kamar Aiken against a Kansas City stout defense, the volume of passes, Barnage's dependability, I like him. I have no qualms about him, and I would start him over Travis Kelce.
That was my next question. I would definitely start Travis Kelce against the Browns. Yes. You want that?
Oh, my.
Water bet.
I wasn't going to seek your approval. When you use a word like definitely, the button gets pushed.
Yeah, I like it.
So Barnidge, Kelce, that's fine. The Kelce hate, if you want to call it that, shade, I guess is a better word. That just comes from the same argument I have for Smith. You just haven't seen it. Juicy matchups, not a lot of points.
I just think, last week Barnidge in a good matchup got 3 total catches for 29 yards.
Against whom?
Seattle, who
I mean,
A good matchup?
It's a good matchup
tight end.
as far as the tight end puts up points, but as far as a total offense, that's a terrible matchup.
Exactly. I don't look just at that micro stat there. I think you play Seattle. I'd rather Gary Barnidge play almost anybody else, and he played well, so I'm happy with it. Anybody else in this game?
Let's look
Jeremy
it over.
Maclin. Are you starting him?
I would start him, but he's got to be in the 2.
Spencer Ware
category.
owners. Give them the quick injury rundown.
Spencer Ware is still hurting. He is available. He'll be practicing this week. He'll be in the game, and he'll probably be used a little bit. In this matchup, he's a guy that could punch in a touchdown or 2, but I'm not going to play him even in this matchup. I just don't think they're going to
Too
need
much
him
risk.
in this game. And so if you don't need a guy who's hurting, you're probably not going to force the issue with him when you've got Kendrick West. I would not like to start Ware.
I would play all those guys we talked about in that Christine Michael, Cameron Artis-Payne, Woodhead category over Spencer
Ware.
Patriots go to New York to take on the Jets. This game means everything to New York, and they still might miss the playoffs. In a really, they've had a great season. Fitzpatrick's best season as a pro. Really, I think it's the first time he's got 8 wins or something like that too. I mean, they're playing very well. You've got the Ivory Powell situation. Now, we broke down the stats earlier in the week. Powell has been the fantasy-producing running back on this team since he returned. I don't think that's going to change, and I like him a lot in half-point and full-point PPR leagues. Ivory's still a baseline type of guy. He's a guy that if you've seen him play over the course of the season, sometimes, he's a volume-type guy. Once he gets the 8th or 9th carry, maybe he busts off a 25-yard run. But and he'll get the goal line. It's not going to be a Powell on the 1-yard line. It's going to be Ivory. So that's the game that you're playing.
If they can get to the goal line.
But you're taking a chance there. You need
Yeah.
a lot of things can happen. We saw that with David Johnson. Michael Floyd goes down on the inch line and you get a free touchdown. That's the game you play. That being said, Powell this week a better play than Ivory.
I completely agree. You got to project game flow in these situations. You have to assume the Patriots will have a lead. Now, it was a closer game last week, but the Patriots were in control of the game. So I like Powell more than Ivory this week.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not very high on Ivory. I would rather have a Frank Gore or a Tim Hightower over Ivory.
You have the locked and loaded guys in this game: Brandon Marshall, Eric Decker, Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski. The ones that we need to discuss then are James White and Ryan Fitzpatrick. So Fitzpatrick at the quarterback position for the Jets, and then James White. What do you see from these guys? White has become more dependable. What I like to see is the way they're using him and the way the offense talks about him. Because when he first came in for Deion Lewis, he didn't really look like he was comfortable, and the performance wasn't there. Now he kind of looks like he's more of a cog in the offense.
If it wasn't for Charkandrick West and what I see him being able to do against the Browns, James White was going to be my start of the week. I am very confident. Now, this is one of the reasons I didn't do that is because it's much more heavily in half-point or full-point PPR. In standard, he doesn't really get carries. I think he gets like 1 or 2 carries a game and might be able to punch in a touchdown. But he's had 10 catches, 7 catches, and he's looking better and better with Brady in that offense. You've got Amendola, who's going to be out. You've got Edelman, who's probably going to be out. They've been talking about bringing him back week 17. So
Huge bump.
I mean, that to me says James White is going to be in that role, and you're playing the Jets, a team that has been a good run D. And if you look at how New England played them early in the year, they didn't run the ball. They literally, it was crazy. They just said, I'm not running the ball. I'm passing every down, and you're going to have to deal with it. And they didn't deal with it too well.
They ran, Jason.
That's right. They ran through the air.
Thank you.
And that's what they're going to do.
It's a good argument for White.
With James White. So if you're in a half-point or full-point PPR, man, I don't want him on my bench because I feel like he has the potential to have one of those gigantic games.
And you guys talked about it, Edelman and Amendola, both likely to miss. If one was going to play in this game, it would be Edelman, which I doubt. So somebody on the outside, is it Brandon LaFell, Keyshawn Martin, will have targets in this game.
Gronk. I'm not confident about any of those guys. You're right. I mean, either one could have a big game, but there's so many options at wide receiver. I'm not going to be probably playing LaFell.
All right, that's fair enough. I mean, LaFell had an okay game last week, 4 or 5 for 88 yards. But, yeah, it's a risk, a big risk.
The problem with LaFell is you keep waiting for it.
I know.
And he keeps you like,
It's
okay,
like Austin Seferian-Jenkins.
we
I'm not going to do it.
we finally got that okay game. Let's take the next step. And then he says, I'm going to have a bad game. Then you go, okay, well, back
And then
to
you
the
go,
drawing
oh,
board.
I didn't win my title because I played you. So.
Oh, another okay game. So if you need an okay game and you want to be an okay team, you play Brandon LaFell.
Brandon LaFell is made for the third place games. He's all about the
You're
third.
in that consolation bracket.
Yeah.
You put LaFell in.
That's nice. All right, the Cowboys and the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are big favorites at home somehow. So 42 it's hard to make anybody a favorite right now the way those two teams have
I
performed.
believe the answer is they're playing the Dallas Cowboys.
There it is. Yeah, 42.5 point over under though, low scoring game. I would believe it. Mike pointed out earlier with Tyrod Taylor, the odds of this game being low scoring are high because of the Kellen Moore, Tyrod Taylor, the way the defense for, the pass defense for the Cowboys is 6th in the league. The Bills, their defense isn't great, but they're at home and you've got a rookie and you've seen Dallas play football lately. So what do we really think about Dez Bryant? Because I'm more okay with him this week than I've been in the last few weeks.
We saw Kellen Moore come out where, to his credit, he makes the horrific rookie mistakes. You saw some just egregious interceptions. But he has come out and he has said he watched what Matt Castle has done and come out and basically try not to lose. I don't want to lose. I don't want to get embarrassed. Kellen Moore says, screw that crap. I'm going to try and win this game, and I'm going to sling the ball downfield, and I'm going to throw it to Dez Bryant because that's the smart thing to do.
It's the right thing to do.
On the touchdown, I mean, he saw Dez Bryant in a one-on-one situation on the outside, and it was basically a sideways throw. But we've seen Tony Romo do that and have great success because Dez Bryant is a monster of a man. So I think Dez Bryant, you have to feel more comfortable with Dez right now than you have felt in a very long time.
I think that says it all. I agree completely. The ability to force feed him a little bit because the equation for scoring points is getting the ball into your best player's hands.
It's so weird.
Mathematics.
I don't know why they haven't figured it out for weeks, but
So are you fading Sammy Watkins, Mike, because of Tyrod Taylor, or is he still a very startable guy this week? 'Cause he's been on fire.
He's still very startable for me, and the reason you get one touchdown bomb to Sammy Watkins
Makes your week.
it makes the week. For Tyrod Taylor, he would need a couple of them to have a upper echelon quarterback performance. That's the only reason I fade Taylor a bit in this game. But Watkins, there's no way you can sit him down right now.
Yeah, he's too hot right now. Let me ask you,
Too hot in the hot tub.
let me ask you about a guy who was looking like he was fading, and has come on strong the last 2 weeks.
Very good week last week.
In Darren McFadden. Darren McFadden has 2 weeks in a row.
Old man strength.
2 weeks in a row, over 100 yards on the ground. And now he's facing the Buffalo Bills that for 4 weeks in a row have given up more than 100 yards on the ground.
I like Darren McFadden.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to feel good with the baseline there of productivity. He's still got touchdown, chances, but if he doesn't have a touchdown, he should be okay in that running game. I think
Darren McFadden, I figured it out, by the way. I know why he's playing so well at the end of the year. When you get season-ending injuries early in your career, you can store up the back half of the season and use it later on. We have him as number 8 in our rankings right now.
Hey.
As high as 6 on Mike's. Jason and I have him at 11. Look, you get what you need with him. You get a few passes. You get workload. You're going up against an okay matchup.
Well,
You're going to want to mitigate the risk for Kellen Moore a little bit. I don't see a reason why Darren McFadden, I'd start him over the Denard Robinson Yeldon dance. I'd start him over Carlos Williams. Start him over Todd Gurley in Seattle.
for sure.
Darren McFadden, he found one of those Mega Man energy tanks. He replenished, and now he's good to go. And we saw
That is not accurate. Nope. He didn't.
He did. What are you talking about? He didn't. He's running great.
And
So-
I mostly just don't know what you're talking about.
So one of the guys you
Play
said,
a Nintendo.
all right. He didn't have a Nintendo. We've covered this. He wasn't. Right?
I had a Super Nintendo.
Oh, okay. All right.
So you're right.
Okay,
I didn't
so
have.
you did not
I had
have
a
a-
friend that I could go to his house and play a Nintendo on.
I have breaking news. There was Mega Man games on Super Nintendo. You clearly did everything wrong in your childhood.
All right, let's get
I've
back
just forgotten
here.
most of my
All right,
childhood.
you mentioned somebody that you would play Darren McFadden over, and it's in this game, which is Carlos Williams. Carlos Williams, is he the guy to have here in this game at the running back position with LaShawn McCoy out?
Yes.
Yeah,
I would start Carlos Williams. I'm okay starting him.
There's been a lot of questions as to who should be the number one waiver claim, and Carlos Williams has been in that mix.
People are fearful about the comments that Rex Ryan made about him kind of being beat up and sore. They need him. They need him to be out there. He's been a guy that has gotten into the end zone. We all agree because our rankings have him just outside the RB1 category. So, yes, he's the name that needs to get brought up because people need to be pushed towards starting him. I would start him over the Artis Paynes and the Christine Michaels.
Yeah?
I would.
Yeah, I believe I would too.
Because they're an offense predicated on the run, and Carlos Williams has been a guy that's a big play type of guy. At least you have that opportunity there. I don't know what my big play opportunity is going to be with Michael or with Artis Payne right now.
Yeah, I don't believe Carlos Williams has had a bad fantasy game ever as a starter. When he starts, he's had good games.
Do you realize how many football games there are every week?
Well, we are 1 hour and 20 minutes in. I got the jacket off. We're rolling.
You got any of those Mega Man crap you mentioned?
The Mega Man energy tanks?
Can you slide one over to me?
No.
All right.
You get none.
I know. Panthers.
We can do it. We can do it.
I was just trying to start thinking about Super NES games that were my
goodness.
jam.
Oh, be careful.
So I was jumping into like Donkey Kong Country. So
Wow, I just started scrolling. There are a lot of NFL games this week.
okay, slide one over to Jason. All right, Panthers at the Falcons. Woe is all Falcons.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you how frustrated I am as a Julio Jones owner. Yes, he was productive last week, but it's so annoying. He's productive in ways that his sheer talent allows him to be, but he scores on little screens in front of the line of scrimmage that he runs in. He doesn't get targeted on jump balls or how about wide receiver one type of plays that you run for big-time receivers. He doesn't get targeted on deep balls and deep shots, which, by the way, despite that, they're statistically one of the most accurate teams going downfield. They won't do it. I just am so tired of it.
I have this
Help
theory.
me.
I have this theory. You guys are familiar with the Parent Trap?
Sure.
With the twins, and they switch places because they think it's so funny. Matt Ryan and Matt Stafford have switched places.
Over the last few weeks or
Yeah.
all season?
Especially over the last few weeks. They dabbled in it a little bit at the beginning. But Matt Stafford, he's playing for Atlanta right now.
All right, so let's talk Julio then, fantasy-wise. This week, owners have him in championship
Josh
games.
Norman.
Josh Norman. You, Andy, have him outside a wide receiver one. You've got him at 13, so not far behind.
And that is calculated. That is not rage. that is. Mike asked me here's the perfect summary. Mike asked me this question in the studio yesterday after we were done with the show. He said, "Will Atlanta be dumb again?" He said, "Will they be dumb again and not put him in the slot?" And I said, "Yes, they will. They will be dumb again, and they will play him like they did last week. And you will have your phone out wherever you are, and you're following this game, and you will see Matt Ryan incomplete to Hardy, Matt Ryan incomplete to Tammy, Matt Ryan incomplete to Freeman, and you will never see Julio's name pop up until the game gets out of hand. And it doesn't mean I wouldn't start him. Like you said, he's just outside the wide receiver
All
one.
right, it's championship week.
He's going in my lineup.
It's championship week. You've got two great wide receivers in there, and you need a third. And your options.
If you have two great ones that are above Julio Jones at 12 in our rankings, then that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well done.
Well, let me give you who you've got then. I'll go by your rankings, guys, that you've got ahead of Julio. You've got Jeremy Maclin and Demaryius Thomas in there. Okay, you're starting those guys over. Okay, let me give you a little better because I see you wincing. Like, no, I'd start Julio over.
I might move him up a couple
got,
spots.
You got
there's
Mike Evans and Sammy Watkins. Mike Evans and Sammy Watkins are in because I would play both of those guys over Julio. I think you would as well. And your third decision now is Julio or
Becker.
Deshaun Jackson.
Julio Jones represents what he's done all year. He's a top 3 receiver. even in the game against Norman, 10 or 11 points, I guess I'd play Julio.
Okay, well,
Because I don't have – that's literally just shame mitigation.
the name that jumps off the list from your rankings of confidence in how you feel about the wide receiver position this week, Julio Jones or Martavis Bryant, who gets a delicious matchup that we have.
I'm playing Martavis Bryant.
Okay, so we have found your threshold. You'll play Bryant over Julio, and it's very possible that people have both of those guys.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah,
What am I going to do to people?
I would.
Yes,
have,
yes,
no,
I would. Yes.
I would as
Yes,
well.
this is a team that cannot score points. They had 29 points over the last 3 weeks, and they came out last week, and it looked like they were getting it together like they do sometimes against bad matchups. Now they have a terrible matchup. I mean, in the sense that last week it was a good matchup is what I mean, against Jacksonville. And Julio got it done on volume.
Right.
Now let me tell you who I am confident in starting from Atlanta, which I think a lot of people are not confident. I am
The water
confident
boy.
starting Devontae Freeman. I am personally now, but Jason, 2 weeks ago he played Carolina and he only got no touchdowns and 12 carries for 40 yards.
He only got
no touchdowns.
Voice of public opinion has no grammar skills.
No, none.
That's weird that the voice of public opinion and Jason both sacrifice the English language on a frequent basis.
Yeah, so I mean, 2 weeks ago against Carolina, he had easily his worst game of the entire year, and that's including when he wasn't starting in week 1. So Devontae Freeman has to scare a lot of people.
He scares Mike because Mike would play Darren McFadden ahead of him. Would he?
In standard.
In standard?
In standard,
Yeah,
I
in a
would,
standard league.
So, I am confident starting Devontae Freeman. I've fielded a lot of questions, and I think he's going to be okay. I definitely don't think he has one of his 30-point big blow-up games, but this is one of the big differences that you have to realize is this is a home game for Atlanta. Last time they were in Carolina. Those things make big differences for teams in the NFL. It's not the same as
It's also not
other
every day
sports.
that you're a 7-point underdog at home.
Right.
So I honestly think the Panthers fighting for perfection.
And if
The
you want
inability of the Falcons to do much on offense. I don't disagree with you at all about Freeman, but man, am I not excited about the Falcons offense.
Here's the only narrative that I will go with that maybe the Falcons was when you're thinking back. Now I'm remembering they lost the game. But when the Patriots were fighting for perfection, last game of the season against the Giants, who no one gave the Giants a chance. The Giants were not playing well at all. They were in the playoffs, but they did not look like a very good team, and they almost beat the Patriots. Because the teams can rally at home. These things happen.
That was the year that the Giants won the Super Bowl.
Correct. But I'm saying, to that point, nobody was considering them a Super Bowl contender. They were just in the playoffs.
I agree with you. 49ers take on the Detroit Lions. We talked about Matt Stafford. Golden Tate has been on a tear right now, which is not surprising because when Calvin Johnson is hurt or limited, it's the Golden Tate show.
Absolutely.
Extremely reliable right now. Love him in the playoffs. What is going on with the running game in Detroit?
It's gotten better. It's gotten better. We saw Amir Abdullah, the man who can change direction, moving 1,000 miles an hour, have a pretty good game. I mean, it might have been his best game of the year. I'm recalling that off of my memory. And you also saw the ghost of Joyke Bell came out
71 yards and a touchdown on 8 carries.
And
he had that super weird play at the end of the game where it was
he
like
killed the game.
Yeah.
You knew they were going to run the ball.
That was
and they had this situation 2 weeks ago. The Lions did against Green Bay. Joyke Bell lost yards. And in this game against the Saints, Joyke Bell ripped off a huge run. So the running game
I'm going to go ahead and blame that on the Saints.
So
I will because
blame
he
it
didn't
on
do
the
anything special in
Saints.
that.
is that Milli Vanilli?
Yes.
He didn't do anything special on that play. I couldn't even understand what I was watching. You have
He
to stop
ran
the clock.
extremely forward on
Yes,
that
he
play.
did through a giant.
I told you, he's a ghost. You can't tackle a ghost.
And on that note-
so do you start Amir Abdullah? Do you chase what he did last week and start him this week?
I don't think Abdullah is necessarily just chasing last week. Over the last month, he has been improving and getting more usage. So if you want to flex him, I'm okay with that.
Is there any chance that you start Sean Drone if he's healthy?
Yes.
You would?
I would not. I would
I
not.
would.
I think
Start any of those other guys.
Yep, me
that
too. I would
middling-
start.
You would start Abdullah over Drone?
That's a fair question.
Yeah, I think I would.
To me,
Because I'm worried about the injury situation.
I would as well because of the matchup.
I guess full practice the rest of the week or something like
Well,
that,
and
but he's
here's-
not going to.
even if he doesn't, they cut his backup. They brought in a guy off of the street.
Well, their rookie is back at practice now.
That's very fair. Davis, Mike Davis.
Yes, Mike Davis is back at practice, so I think that had something to do
Yeah,
with
that that could have to do with it. Mike Davis.
Just don't feel great about it. That's
Yeah,
all
that-
it is.
That's very fair.
Texans take on
Wait.
the Titans.
We have to talk Calvin Johnson.
Oh,
Yeah, what
because
are you
people
doing?
need to know what to do.
Certainly.
It's the scare. He was almost my sit of the week.
Oof.
And the whole reason he wasn't my sit of the week is because San Francisco, going on the road is just one of those defenses that's like Calvin should
They
be
don't
able
travel.
to get something.
26 against the pass.
Yeah.
Not a good passing defense.
But Calvin, we saw this last year when he was hurt with his ankle.
It's just-
He was a decoy and he
that's-
wasn't used, and that's what's going on right now. How do you, if you've got good options, it's such a scary
Tyler
thing.
Lockett or Calvin Johnson this week?
I would go Calvin over Tyler Lockett. That one to me is a little bit easier. But if you've got,
Larry Fitzgerald or Calvin Johnson this week?
I mean, I would go Larry.
Any of the Arizona wide receivers over Calvin?
Yeah, I would go Floyd, probably Brown.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, I'm not loving the idea of rolling Calvin Johnson out there, and there's a lot of people.
I mean, there are a lot of people. True. I mean, we're getting through this forecast, and we're looking at the matchups, and there are big names coming up: Julio, Calvin,
AJ Green might
Devontae Freeman, AJ Green. These are big time names, and if you cannot, which I don't even know, push comes to shove, depending on my matchup, which guy in which situation. If they got you here, and they're starting, you might not you might not be able to sit them down. It's just literally, can you live with yourself by? It's the whole Big Ben situation with Denver last week. If you started somebody that was a complete flyer versus Big Ben against Denver, could you have lived with yourself when Big Ben exploded like he did last week? It's hard to do that. I mean, it's one of those things that if you're going out there and you're going to stream 5 or 6 positions because that's your choice. Megatron, yes, if you have Martavis Bryant, maybe it makes it easy. But Megatron, and you've got a middling guy,
and you've got Ted Ginn Jr.
yeah.
Ted Ginn Jr., who got
That's a
14
perfect
targets,
point.
Oh, man.
is getting in the red zone.
I think you have to start Ted Ginn Jr.
I agree. I think I would start Ted Ginn Jr. over Calvin Johnson, which
Oh
is
my goodness!
crazy.
What world?
We got to stop the show.
That's
Goodness.
a hard thing to click save lineup on.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, but
so that shows our confidence in Megatron right now.
yeah.
We don't know what's going on. This was a shootout on Monday night. Essentially, it turned into that. It turned into the Saints. Yes, they came back on them, but Calvin wasn't getting targets.
Yeah. What we can say for sure is if the Lions go up a few scores, the 49ers do not have what it takes to come back on the road.
That is true. All right, we have to move on. We still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
What? They don't
7 games
stop.
left. This is why I almost forgot Calvin Johnson.
Megalodon.
I want to sleep tonight. All right, the Texans take on the Titans without Marcus Mariota. The Texans could have Brian Hoyer back. I really think that this is a game that they're going to control from start to finish. The Titans have been bad. There's no other way to put it. Doesn't matter who they play. Doesn't matter what their situation is. They've just been bad. They're a bad team. I'm sorry, Titans fans. You have a bright future with that quarterback and with Dorial Green Beckham growing up, and hopefully this offseason they can draft a running back. That is the hope for me, is that they can draft somebody that can come in and be a game-changing running
We're
back.
both looking up the exact same thing.
Yeah,
There's no way that's right. Is it right?
it is.
Wow. We were both Googling
The spread,
that Tennessee
at least when it
is
as a friend.
favored by 4.5 points. So I would say this would be
Andy's almost upset of the week.
it's a
Maybe
ludicrous line.
maybe that line has changed and that opened because they thought that Brandon Weeden was going to be the quarterback. And if it trends to Hoyer, that has to flip.
You're right. If
But
Brandon
that 4.5
Whedon's in there and they're at home, I could see a toss-up.
4.5?
Yeah, that's
All right.
All right.
Vegas isn't wrong
Sure.
very often.
Sure.
Well, does that change your whole equation? Are the Titans going to the playoffs?
They're in.
You both looked completely aghast across from me here while I was talking about the game. You're both thinking, okay, is that the other direction? But right now, betting was off on that because they're waiting on the Hoyer and the Whedon situation. So talked about Alfred Blue. Mike likes him compared to some other options because of the
Yes.
volume. DeAndre Hopkins, what's his story?
Well, he grew up in a small town.
Okay.
Apparently, he got a funny nickname that half of the world knows how to pronounce and half does not, because it's either Nuck or Nuke, and that keeps going back and forth on Twitter. They keep saying, no, it's Nuck. No, it's Nuke. Can someone get DeAndre Hopkins on the phone and confirm what his nickname actually is?
It's Nuke.
You're 100% confident?
I am 100% confident.
All right. So
It's settled.
last game, 11 targets, which was good to see because he was basically 11 or more targets for the first basically 8-9 weeks of the season, kind of dipped back down. Now he was at 11 last week, 94 receiving yards, still hasn't been getting into the end zone as consistently. You like him this week?
He's still a must-start guy.
Yeah.
To me.
Yep.
You're gonna, the way I see the game going, you're gonna have to hope that he's the one who scores early, though, because I really see the Texans taking control of this game.
Unfortunately, Vegas is not. The Titans are going to dominate from start to finish.
Possible.
Mettenberger, Sankey, they're going to get it done.
We know that Mettenberger and J.J. Watt have a history.
Oh, yeah.
And they do not like each other.
Oh, that's
Well-
great news for what I think is a good play in the Texans defense.
I think that might be one of the bigger starts of this game is the defense.
the Texans.
So you're not playing Hoyer if he plays. You're just hoping he benefits Hopkins in a good way in that offense.
Yeah, I mean, Hoyer wouldn't be a terrible streamer. He's been very productive in his starts. Very productive.
He has. So the Steelers take on the Ravens. Boy, this game doesn't mean quite what it used to. These games were always dogfights. It didn't matter who was where, and maybe it will be again by some miracle of Jimmy Clausen. But the Ravens at home, 10-point underdogs.
Oh,
the Steelers
that's-
are the team that I think,
That's no respect.
if I had to pick a team to get to the Super Bowl right now, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. They got to make the playoffs first, but if they do, the pedigree, the offense, I'd be frightened to face them in a divisional matchup.
Yes, I completely agree.
They're
going
going to come on the road and they're going to land in your building, and you're going to go, man, how did we draw this team?
So you're gonna.
Why aren't we playing Washington? I mean, it's a different division, but
So again, yeah.
why aren't we
against-
playing the Texans?
against all of these, matchups? You're going to play every single Steeler on the offensive side of the ball. You're going to play Big Ben. I mean, you're probably not going to play Wheaton, but you're going. Martavis Bryant, Antonio Brown, Big Ben, and D'Angelo Williams. They're going to be starting on virtually every roster out
Yes.
there.
Yes.
So, what do you do with Buck Allen?
Nothing.
You don't play Buck Allen?
You don't touch him with a 10-foot pole.
Really?
No.
I have a little bit more confidence in Buck Allen than you do, based on what Harbaugh said.
What about based on the stat line last week
Well, he got pulled.
and the game before?
The game before was a terrible matchup where we said
He still had
sit Buck
catches.
Allen.
He still
Okay.
had some catches.
Is there a framework of bet that I can do with Buck Allen? Because I just don't like him at all. First of all, who's going to be winning this game?
I think it's pretty clear it's the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, I mean, Buck Allen is going to have to make hay in the passing game. He doesn't have Schaub to do it anymore. It's going to be Clausen or Mallett. They're going to stuff the run and make those guys throw just like they've done against Buck Allen the last few weeks. I don't like him. You can't make me like him.
Well,
I don't like him on a plane. I don't like him in a train.
so here's
I
my
don't like
point.
him in a tunnel.
Here's my
Don't
point
like him in a funnel.
on that is that Buck Allen is he is their main pass catching back, and he's excellent at that, and they're going to be down. And the Pittsburgh Steelers are a good defense against the ground game, but I think they can be beat there. They're not one of those teams that terrify me for a player like Buck Allen. I think that what Harbaugh did last week in benching him because he fumbled and then saying, no, we're not going to keep benching Buck Allen, that was to send a message. I think he's going to put him back out there. The
Until
only
he
worry
fumbles again.
Yeah.
That's the only worry I
mean-
have is that you've got a big risk in another fumble and a pull. However, I believe Buck Allen has a decent game. I mean, I would say Buck Allen's, is in
Three?
a PPR
Three
setting,
or three or a low 2.
I would say he's a low 2, but that's going to be starting on a lot of rosters. And I'm not afraid of him the way that you are. I'm not a guaranteed you got to sit Buck Allen. I think you can have a fine game.
That's fair.
All right, now the only guy will start because the Steelers can be thrown on. They're the 31st ranked pass defense.
Oh yeah,
is Kamar Aiken.
they're
Because he
surprisingly
just
good.
kind of keeps doing it, and when the quarterback, whoever it shall be named, fades back in the pocket, he looks Kamar Aiken's way and he throws the ball and hopes. And Kamar Aiken's been coming down with him.
Kamar Aiken gets open.
Yeah.
That's what he does.
Yeah, I mean he's been their guy, so I'm okay playing him. That's it. That's all I'm okay with.
How do you feel about Heath Miller this week?
I thought about trying to stretch him into a start, and I just can't do it.
He was almost my sit of the
Look-
week.
look,
I thought he would have been my sit of the week. I would rather have Austin Seferian-Jenkins than Heath Miller.
The worry in this game is we saw an equation that amounted to a conservative offensive approach when they played Cincinnati and Andy Dalton went out. Big Ben had no touchdowns in that game, and they didn't need it. So the question is does your guy, whether it's Martavis Bryant, D. Will, Brown, does he get it early in this game? And then do they kind of change the game plan a little bit? I don't know if they want to beat the Ravens by 74 points.
I think they do.
The one thing that
I don't
gives
think that-
I don't know.
the one thing that gives me more confidence in is D. Will, because if D. Will ends up getting the early scores, then he's going to be used often. If he doesn't get the early scores, then he's going to be used often. So
That's a good. I'll take often and often. Now
And
that
Steelers defense, I like them very much. I know they're on the road, but I like the Steelers defense this week.
all right, the Jacksonville Jaguars go on the road to New Orleans to take on the Saints. Saints are favored. Obviously, it depends upon the Breeze situation. We're going to presume Breeze right now. I think he'll play. I think that's a good presumption. Everybody wants to know, do I start Blake Bortles over blank? And that's almost everybody. I've heard Tom Brady. I've heard
Nope.
Cam Newton.
nope,
I've heard Carson Palmer.
possibly.
So you would do that?
It would be
possibly.
it would be in the consideration of which guy would I start between Carson and Blake Bortles, but I would still probably start Carson.
Okay.
There's about 5 guys I would start over Blake Bortles. Here's a guy I would start Blake Bortles over this week in my fantasy championship.
Oh,
That's tough.
Oh, I know what's coming.
It's Aaron Rodgers.
Oh,
Yes.
I would start Blake Bortles in a great matchup. He's been a great fantasy option this year. You're not pulling from the from the waiver wire
the
where
gutter.
you're saying, hey, he's got a good matchup and that's the only reason. You gotta
ride the
you gotta
whale.
ride that snake.
It just felt like the right time.
And you've got Aaron Rodgers, who hasn't been that great lately, going to Arizona playing the Cardinals defense. So I would absolutely play Blake Bortles over him.
I have that ranked accordingly. I would also play Bortles over Aaron Rodgers in a crazy world.
So we've talked a lot about the offense for New Orleans with our love of Brandon Cooks this week. Ben Watson has been very reliable. I don't have any reason to dislike him this week. It's kind of an even keel type of tight end that'll get you some catches. Got a touchdown last week. They lean on him. What do we think about Tim Hightower? I like him a lot.
Yeah, I like him too. The Spiller, I believe, had kind of his highest snap percentage of the year, but Hightower appears to be the guy who's going to get the
He looks fast.
work.
He looks pretty quick.
Well, he hasn't had to play a game in 4 years.
He's been storing it up, just like McFadden. I like Hightower a lot. I think he gives you everything you need. He gives you upside. He scored and it got called back last game. He gives you volume. He gives you pass catching and full point PPR. I love Hightower.
Honestly,
Give me Hightower over Gore. Give me Hightower over Lamar Miller.
assuming that Drew Brees plays, this is a situation of I'm starting essentially everybody from this game because I think it's
No, you're right. You're
a
right.
52 over under.
Oh, my goodness.
That's crazy.
The question is going to come in, and I think we have to answer this because we don't have more shows this week. We have to.
If Brees is gone?
If Brees is gone, where do we value Snead or Cooks or Hightower? Because you're still going to play
Shoebox.
Allen Robinson.
Shoebox.
Shoebox him.
I'd
Even
still
Cooks?
I'd still be willing to
I'd
start
shoebox
Cooks.
Cooks.
I would still play him. There's not many options. Cooks has been great, and I know a lot of that is Drew Brees, but can you?
Okay, so
I can't see
Drew
them.
Brees is out. Would you play Cooks or Deshaun Jackson?
That one I'd probably go G-Jax.
Yeah.
Cooks or
absolutely.
Michael Floyd?
Floyd.
Lloyd.
Is this if Breeze is out?
If
Yeah.
Brees is
These are easy
out,
ones so far.
Okay, Cooks or T.Y. Hilton?
Cooks.
They're identical.
Okay,
I try to start somebody else.
That's not the name of the
I
game.
know, I
Andy.
know. Give me
All right.
Cooks. Give me Cooks.
last one. Last
I'm the
one
one who normally says that too.
Last one. You've got Breeze out, and you've got Brandon Cooks or Jordan Matthews.
I play Jordan Matthews. He's play. I mean, I'll take a chance on the upside of how he's been
Yeah.
playing. He's been playing good. All right, we got to move on. We're getting closer to the 2-hour mark,
I
and
think
we
we're
still
gonna
got four
crush
four
that.
matches. Well, we need to do our best to stay around that area, just for the sake of getting the show up at any time today.
Yep.
So the Rams and Seahawks divisional matchup in Seattle. Mike, what do we do with Todd Gurley?
Oh man, that's the big question from this game.
It
And,
is.
He's one of those guys. He's like Lamar Miller. If I have him, I'm probably
Lamar
starting.
Miller or Todd Gurley?
Ooh,
That's a great question.
My eyes are.
I'm gonna play Todd Gurley.
My eyes are squinting,
Yep.
and I don't like it.
That's not how the game's played, Mike.
I'm still thinking. I would go Lamar Miller. Lamar Miller in a better matchup.
Okay. All right. I would go Todd Gurley myself. He's been better with Keenum. That offense just came
Yeah.
off a good game, divisional game. Yes, the Seahawks are going to win the game. But
I have
you never know.
a theory about Case Keenum. It is that he will the true Case Keenum will show up in this game against the Seahawks. He will be exposed, and it's going to be really, really bad for Case Keenum.
Yeah, you got to like the Seahawks defense.
Now-
I like Tyler Lockett. I like Doug Baldwin. I like Curse. I like all three guys.
Man, the Seahawks defense against the running backs, looking at what they've done, total, and this isn't just to their starting running back, but to the whole team, 69 yards, 30 yards, 35 yards, 29 yards, 37 yards. They are the number one ranked rush defense. That's tough for me
And
to
here's the thing with these are new Seahawks. These aren't a grinded out. Maybe a running back can put up volume against us. This is a Seahawk team
Right.
that is airing it out. They are blowing teams out. They are removing the running game from the equation. Not only are they a ridiculously good run defense, you don't have an opportunity to establish the run when you have to throw. You go down by 2 scores in 5 minutes. You have to throw the ball. So it's tough.
give me
It's
Lamar
tough.
Miller.
Yeah, there we go.
I really like Tyler Lockett again as a flex guy. Baldwin is in your lineup.
Yes.
For goodness sakes, he's in your lineup. He might not be in the Pro Bowl, but he's in your lineup.
Yeah, he's the number one wide receiver second half of the year. Yeah.
And then what do you guys think of Curse?
I love to curse. Dad jokes. No, I'm not gonna do it. I mean, it's sure if you want to stretch it out.
He's
you
been
just-
killing it the last 2 weeks. Killing it.
What are his numbers?
Last week, 7 of 8 targets, 110 yards against the Browns. The week before, I think his target numbers were at 9, and he had 6 or 7 catches. 7 for 74 against the Ravens. He has been involved, and I still think this is a bit of a coin flip on which guy catches the touchdowns.
Yeah, that's very fair. Those are 2 really bad pass defenses, but I guess the Rams aren't that much further away.
21st in the league right now.
I
Yeah.
don't expect this. The one thing I will say is
I
that
still
last
rank
week,
them Baldwin, Lockett, Curse.
last week against the Browns, I expected there to be a ton of points that Seattle was putting up. I don't think that this is going to be as high scoring a game. Vegas has it at 40 as the total
Yeah, it's
over under
low.
in the game, and that's very low. So I don't see
38
three
of
wide
those are.
Yeah, exactly. I don't see 3 wide receivers getting involved. Lockett, I'm okay with, but I'm not going to go Curse.
Well, I mean, 40. It's a 40-point over/under, but the Seahawks are favored by almost 14 points. So
Crazy.
the implied team total for the Seahawks is still a lot of points.
All right, we have to move on.
very
The
funny.
Green Bay Packers take on the Arizona Cardinals. This is a game that matters for both teams. The Cardinals have a chance to clinch the bye week, which is crucial. They just lost Tyrann Mathieu, so there's a funk in Arizona right now.
Yeah.
And I know it doesn't have a lot of fantasy relevance, but it might for the sake of Rodgers in the passing game a little bit. McCarthy back at the helm of the play calling. Talked about that at length with Richard Rodgers. But what does that mean for a guy like James Jones, who had a good week, Randall Cobb, even Devontae Adams was involved?
Sorry.
Well, this
You guys
is
have so much to say. Thank you
this
for
is
that.
I thought Jason was
Thank
jumping
you.
in.
No, I thought you were. I just this game is so important from a playoff standpoint. You
That was
have
quite the swallow.
the
That was
only
terrifying.
sorry, the only team that could take the only team that could take over the Cardinals bye week is the Packers, and it only happens if the Packers win this game. So it's very, very important from a Cardinals standpoint. I think you see.
You're dying.
Yeah, you see David Johnson getting the ball and trying to control this with the hurt defense.
Who?
David Johnson. I apologize.
It's been
to
2
everyone.
hours. We need it.
As far as the wide receivers that I would start from the Packers, it's probably going to be nobody. James Jones would be the only guy I would consider starting. I think.
Over Cobb?
Well,
Is Cobb going to get Patrick Peterson?
that's the question. So Cobb is. I think Cobb gets Patrick Peterson, but what do you guys think?
Probably.
James Jones.
I would tend to agree that Patrick Peterson
I would
will
still-
shadow Cobb.
Yeah, I'd still play Cobb over James Jones.
Yeah, if for
In a
for
standard
fantasy-
league, maybe Jones, but in PPR leagues,
No,
I'll play
I mean,
Cobb.
I would play Cobb. He's the better probability play, but that's
What this
That's
says to me
tough.
is I don't play. I'm not chasing anything for the Packers passing game here. I'm not going to play Richard Rodgers. I'm not going to play James Jones. I'm not going to play Randall Cobb. That's how I see it.
See, I would apply the Matthew situation a lot more to Cobb than I would Richard Rodgers. Matthew he's the slot corner. He's not just a free safety. He's
Right.
the nickel corner. He's the guy who comes in and stops the third down play to Randall Cobb. So if they can adjust, then that'll be true. But I like the volume numbers for Cobb. That's why I'm okay with him.
And here's the hard part, though. I mean, this is a 50-point over/under. Vegas is saying there will be points scored in this game.
And there will.
You can't sit all your Packers down. You have to play somebody because someone's going to score. And I don't think it's going to be Eddie Lacy. So maybe it's James Starks, and the receiving core will get something done. So you have to start Packers in this game.
And then Cardinals wide receivers, we have Larry Fitzgerald, who's been kind of not performing for fantasy owners.
Yeah.
Um,
The emergence of Michael Floyd has killed Larry's touchdowns for sure.
and then John Brown, 3 drops last week, but still a productive week with the touchdowns. I'm if I had to rank these guys, you see if you agree with me, I'd go Floyd, Brown, Fitz.
That is exactly how I would.
I
rank
think that's how I have it.
All right, 2 games left. The Giants and the Vikings. This is a primetime game. We're still waiting to hear about Odell Beckham Jr. Unfortunately, that appeal is set to go through today. So we are checking during the course
I'm
of
going to check right now.
yes. So
I can't imagine he wins the appeal. That's just prediction.
I don't know, man. Those bats, they're scary. They could drive a man over the edge to take no responsibility for his own actions. All right. The Giants and Vikings, Bridgewater. Listen, near perfect passer rating last week, throwing 4 touchdowns, 3 incompletions, 2 straight games of great quarterbacking performance. And the Giants, well, we know what the Giants are. They're 32nd in the league against the pass, and they don't know how to stop the pass. That being said, I think they'll put up some points on the Vikings. So this is a game. Vegas has it at a 46-point or 45.5-point over/under. The Vikings are favored. We expect AP to play. He said he should be good to go. So AP owners, breathe with me.
Breathe with me. Boom, boom, doom, doom.
AP is a fine-
I wanted him to relax. I didn't want the prodigy. I wanted him to relax.
Well, you can't say breathe with me then.
Yeah, I know. I got to be careful. So I want to know, guys. Stefan Diggs, is he back in town? Are you starting him this week?
Honestly,
Stefan Diggs or Tyler Lockett?
I'll go Lockett.
Jermaine Kearse.
I would go Diggs over Curse.
Diggs.
I'll take Kearse.
Really?
Yeah.
You guys are doubters. You guys are Kearse doubters.
That's more of a Diggs could do something this week.
Okay.
Diggs is the number 1 for his team,
That's
whereas
fine.
Curse is
No,
the
you're-
number 3.
you're right.
You want to
Well,
water
Curse
No,
is
I
like-
don't because
Kearse
it's
is a
it's
2.5.
the Giants. It's the Giants. So we like Will Tye, the Tie Fighter at tight end. He's a really good. Wow, there's a lot of ties. Tye is a tight end. That's perfect. He is somebody who, without Odell Beckham Jr., I love him this week because he offers me the baseline and he offers me the upside. Then you're not going to have Odell Beckham Jr. being targeted in the end zone if he's not playing, I think.
And Ruben, the wide receivers, Ruben Randall and Harris, they do get a bump. But Ruben Randall has a very long career of letting you down.
So okay,
so that's
there are
why
a lot
I
of
like
people.
Ty.
Odell Beckham Jr. owners, they have Randall or they want Randall. Are you fine just kind of
I-
rolling Randall out there?
Yes, I am fine because I think that Randall will be involved, and Randall has had good games. I don't love it. I'll say
You don't love what?
Randall. I don't love Randall. But I'm perfectly okay with it. That you're in a pinch. You got Beckham. You don't think he's going to play. Then to go with Randall.
All right, we got
I'm okay with it.
We got another player who's enjoying the Mega Man benefits of the late season run, and that's Rashad Jennings.
Yeah.
Wow,
We got
both-
really
you guys
excited.
were ready for some Rashad Jennings.
Rashad.
So what is the story here? Can we start him this week? And who would you start him over? I can tell you where we have him in the rankings, but what are your thoughts on Rashad Jennings?
The problem that I have with Rashad Jennings is really the matchup. Minnesota has a good run D, but Rashad Jennings has always been a very productive runner. The issue has just been he's been splitting in a three-way timeshare. But when he came, I mean, look at last year. When he was the guy, he was amazing.
Well,
Yeah.
Well,
that's not really true.
In the beginning of the year last year.
for fantasy purposes,
That's what I'm talking about.
yes. As a runner,
In the beginning of the year.
no, his yards
Well,
per
that's
carry
when
were
he was
very
the
bad.
guy. No, but when he's been the guy, he's been a productive fantasy player. The last 2 weeks, he's been the guy. He's had 22 carries and 16 carries. And so the question now is, are they going to be able to overcome the run D? Chicago only put up actually, Minnesota's run D, I don't think they're the same right now with their injuries.
Well,
Correct.
because the backer was out again last week, and if he's back, look, who would you start him over? Alfred Blue?
Yes.
Would you start him over Cameron Artis-Payne?
No.
Would you start him over Gio Bernard in a standard?
In standard, yes.
Jeremy Langford in a standard?
No.
Alfred Morris in a standard?
Yes.
You'd start him over Alfred Morris?
Yes.
James Starks?
Yes.
Okay. I want some context for it. That's very helpful for people who are thinking about Rashad Jennings going, boy, those numbers starting to look nice. What do I
Yeah.
do here when I'm in a pinch? I don't have Rawls anymore. I don't have Jonathan Stewart.
You
He's
don't
gonna
have
sit down
Odell
again.
Beckham. What do you need to do? You don't want to get into some kind of a shootout. You need to control the ball a little bit more and get a better running game. So
All right, we are going to hit the Monday night game. Is that all right?
In the face.
Right in the face. The Bengals and the Broncos. Monday Night Football. The McCarron-Osweiler battle of all battles.
Oh, we've all been looking forward
Now-
to this.
Is there any, give some context here. Kubiak has been talking about, the Cougs has been talking about his quarterback situation, and he says he's going to start from scratch. So, what does that mean?
It means that Osweiler's going to play this week.
All
I
right.
think. I don't think Manning's coming in this week.
Well, the focus for Manning is rehabbing right now, and Osweiler can get him through this week. They need to, they could still miss the playoffs, right?
Denver? No.
I think there's still a chance that they can miss
Really?
the playoffs. Yes, I do.
Who's in the wild card? I know the Steelers
I'll
are in the
effort
wild
it. You
card.
talk about the game.
Okay.
statistically, I think you're right, but I don't
So,
think it's going to play
here's
out
the
that
deal
way.
with Osweiler.
Here's how the 10-4 division-leading Broncos
Okay.
can miss the playoffs. Here's how in this scenario: the Broncos lose,
the
out-
Chiefs
lose to the
bump
Bengals and the Chargers, and beat the Chargers, and they finish 11-5. The Jets win out 11-5. The Steelers win at Baltimore and at Cleveland 11-5. Chiefs win their home games 11-5. The Broncos miss the playoffs in that situation. That's not an
Wow.
impossible situation.
That's
Actually a reasonable situation. You better win
Sure.
this game.
So the big issue there is that means the Jets would have to beat New England this weekend.
At home?
It could happen.
It could
with
happen.
with no Amendola and Edelman. And
Sure,
could
but that's
happen.
one of the difficulties.
Yep. But I this was an unforeseeable impossibility based on their start and how they'd been playing. And now the Broncos are in that situation. So I say all that to say this is a big game for Denver. This is a big game for that franchise right now to secure a playoff spot, to likely secure the division. Win this game, you're probably going to win your next one. Emmanuel Sanders exploded last week. What do we do with the wide receivers? Because it feels like something where I can put them out there. They might have these big games. They might not because of the flow of the game and Osweiler's capability. The first and second half last week were insanely different.
Yeah, it's ceiling. I know that both Sanders and Demaryius Thomas have tremendous ceilings, so I'm okay playing them. The floor is clearly lower with Osweiler, with the way they've in flowing the game. And Brock Osweiler, perfect example anything that happens can happen in reverse.
There you go.
Because the first half he could not have looked a better quarterback, and the second half was could not have looked a worse quarterback. He is very much a one-read guy, and
with good physical skill to make the throw if it's there.
And you cover the first read, then there's going to be problems for Osweiler. But I think because of how well he played in the first half, that it's going to be Osweiler. Now, I'm with Jason, though. He's not a guy that I'm going to chase those points, especially against the Bengals.
Yeah, Jason's sit of the week was Brock Osweiler. Jason, what are your thoughts on the Sanders-Thomas confidence, and then what else do you see from this game?
Either one of those guys, both those guys are startable. They're going to be fine. The problem that I have with them is actually their ceiling. I don't think they've got – this game I see as a lower scoring game. You have two great defenses, both who have lost their original starting quarterback, and I have quarterback questions right now. So I think both teams, if you're the Bengals right now, you're going up in a matchup against the absolute best pass defense imaginable. You've lost Tyler Eifert. You might not have A.J. Green, and they're a little bit more susceptible on the ground. I feel like you have to try to make this one of those defensive type of battles where you're going to use Gio and you're going to use Jeremy Hill. They gave him over 30 total carries last game. I expect something like that to happen again, which just brings the fantasy value down across the board on both sides of the ball. So when it comes to Emmanuel Sanders and Demaryius Thomas, I think both are okay plays because both could get 7 catches for 90 yards and one of them get a touchdown. But I don't see any situation where they both explode and there's just this high scoring back and forth affair. There's just two good defenses on the field.
Yeah, and it's fair, but in a situation where one of them can go off, I'm going to play them both, so to speak.
Sure.
And I'm not sure people have both of them on their team. So if you have to pick one, I guess I'd go Thomas. If you have to absolutely pick between them, that's a tough choice though.
Well, and Jason, I think your take is spot on. I think this is going to be a game that disappoints fantasy owners who start players in this game.
I think
Hill and Bernard combined for 1.9 a carry last week. Now you go, you have to take on the number one run defense. You said, the truth is the Broncos are the number one pass defense.
Right.
And so the way you try to beat them is through the number one run defense. And that's just a tall task. I think that the Bengals are going to have a hard time scoring, especially without Green and Eifert. And even if you have Green, do you start Green? Let's say he's healthy.
Yeah, I start him.
Okay, so we do with Green what we did with Antonio Brown last week. Even though it's McCown.
They're different players, but I would still start him. And I think Gio might be a sneaky play this week.
Okay.
Which that's one of those.
They might need to use another pass-catching guy, the Forte situation with Jeffrey.
It's just that kind of gut feeling of assimilating all the information and variables of the game.
Andy, do you know how many
Gio could be sneaky?
Yeah, and I agree. Do you know how many carries Gio Bernard had on the ground? How many running back carries he got?
I do not.
Last week?
14.
Yes.
He got 14
Yeah, Hill
carries.
was not in the game to start. There was something weird going on.
Do you know how many carries Hill got? 19. And they weren't running well. But that's what you see.
That's why I agree with you. I think they're going to do nothing.
Yeah.
That's what I think is going to happen. I think they're not going to be able to do very much. And so I'm with you on that. All right, we're going to go ahead and take some time, answer listener questions in the mailbag. We're going to keep this Megalodon Christmas special going.
Yeah! We're over 2 hours!
A lot of people, they sit by the fire. They nestle by the fire, and they play this episode every year. Year after year. It's really a family tradition.
Like feet up, bear rug.
Hot cocoa in the mug.
Yeah.
We did the drive around last night with the kids, where everybody takes their hot cocoa in the car in their pajamas, and then we drive around. And
Whoa.
We're not in pajamas.
Pajamas?
Right?
Say it. Say that word.
Pajamas?
Pajamas.
It's pajamas. I'm sorry.
Guys, go get your pajamas on. That's how I say it. Pajamas?
Yeah, pajamas.
Not jamas?
Pajamas?
What's wrong with that?
Just sounds like a stupid idiot. That's all.
You said it that way first.
No, he said to say that way.
Hold on, okay. There's a yellow fruit.
Banana.
Okay. Say
It's not a banana?
There's not a connection between a banana and a pajama.
Bananas in pajamas?
All right,
Bananas
I will
and
give you
pajamas.
that
They're
point.
coming down the stairs.
That's a point in your favor.
Guys,
Bananas in pajamas.
get a banana before you put on your pajamas.
The whole story.
And get in your
The whole
Honda.
story's been destroyed.
I apologize. You destroyed it when you said
listen,
pajamas.
I grew up saying pajamas and drinking pop.
It doesn't sound that weird when he says pajamas, unless you say bananas. Then it sounds weird.
My kids had their pajamas on, and we took the car out and we looked. Oh, screw you guys.
Let's just agree to call them PJs.
Let's forget it. Let's forget the story. We're moving on.
Mailbag.
Oh man. We
Coming
could-
off the tracks.
Okay.
I think you get a sneak peek if we get a 3-hour radio show on some network somewhere. We're gonna.
Hey, you get
Break
commercials. No, you get commercials on the radio.
Oh man, a commercial would be so nice right now. Commercial for some silk pajamas. All right, here we go. Some voicemail questions here. We're gonna answer these. Try to get you your titles this week.
Hey, this is Brian in St. Paul, Minnesota. I was wondering what your guys' opinions are on people who aren't in the playoffs making waiver moves. I'm in a league right now where when all these running backs came available in Week 15, we had a lot of guys who weren't in the playoffs picking them up. You know, Denard Robinson, Thomas Rawls, or not Thomas Rawls, but the other guys up in Seattle trying to take all of them. What's your guys' opinions? Should they not be trying to take them? Should they just sit back and let the guys in the playoffs play? Or what's your guys' opinion? Thanks. Bye.
It's a good question. It's one we've actually kind of semi-debated in our own league with stuff going on in our Keeper Dynasty League, which is a little different. But let's just speak to his question. What do you think should be taking place? And I have some pretty strong thoughts about it, but Mike, why don't you take it?
When I am in the playoffs, I have this grand parade going down Main Street. Now, if I lose, or let's say I don't even have the parade going, I am pushing the rain from my parade. I'm putting it on everybody. I hate everybody in the league when I have lost, and you will lose, and you lose a running back. That sucks for you because I'm going to pick them up and screw your team over because I want everybody to lose.
Here's what I think. I am a proponent of playing through the playoffs. If your league allows you to make waiver claims, I think it is in your best interest when you miss the playoffs to continue to pick up those guys, to try to win, to do those things in those playoff weeks and not just abandon fantasy football. You're going to be better next year. So I would actually encourage people to make those waiver moves. Now, here's the problem, though. Collusion, the dangerous, dangerous, dangerous word. Because what happens, we get a lot of emails saying, hey, there's a lot of suspectness. You know, if you were to
Start over.
There's a lot of suspicion.
There it
Hey, I did it. A lot of suspicion about whether or not somebody told somebody to pick this guy up to keep him away from so-and-so. And so I have no problem with a fantasy league that says, hey, and this is what I wish our league did. If you are out of the playoffs, you can't make waiver moves.
And I hate that.
Well, that's fine. So what's your opinion on the whole?
Because it tells me then that the normal kind of the story, the normal game flow for the entire season goes out the window. Because in the playoffs, that's my whole answer to this.
No.
In the playoffs, I'm saying if you're not in them, then just the whole waiver wire dynamic of a week-to-week season goes out the window because only the playoff teams matter. It's a championship matchup, and only those two teams get to pick up everybody. To me, that just breaks the whole dynamic of the league because why shouldn't they have had to prepare for the playoffs because of their waiver position, because they're in the finals?
So essentially, all three of us are in agreement that we would say
Just don't collude.
Yeah, obviously.
Don't collude. Play like normal.
Pick people up.
And pick people up.
Yeah, ruin everyone's day.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if you have to have as vindictive and horrible a mindset as Mike has. You don't have to be about murdering other people's teams or picking a favorite. You can just play the game, like Jason said. You know, you play it through the season. This is why I personally like keeper leagues and dynasty leagues. It just keeps it alive the whole time. Your team's never dead, right? A redraft your team eventually is honestly dead, and you might not care, and I don't blame you because you're not coming back. So make them a dynasty league, make them a keeper league, or play with integrity. All of those options are fine.
Hey, guys, thanks for getting me to the championship. I have a three-way problem with my running backs. I need to know David Johnson, Todd Gurley, or D'Angelo Williams. Pick two. Thanks.
I think we
Pick
all have an
two.
answer.
All right, you got to pick 2 out of David Johnson, Todd Gurley, and D'Angelo Williams. Gurley's sitting down for me.
Yep.
Yep, I agree completely. Gene Ramos in Lawrence, Massachusetts. Who should I start? Bortles versus the Saints or Rodgers versus the Cardinals?
We actually kind of talked about this, and I think we all agreed you would play Blake Bortles.
Yes, I agree. Tim in Green Bay, after losing Rawls, my RBs are now Stewart, Ivory, Morris, DeMarco Murray, and newly picked up Christine Michael. Which 2 would I start this week?
Oh, man.
I would start Ivory and Michael.
Yeah, Ivory.
It's a standard league, too.
Ivory is in for sure, and then between Morris and Michael, it's a little difficult, simply based on this. I know, and I'm a big proponent of Michael over the course of the year. They were playing the Browns. Everyone has success against the Browns. I know a couple teams here and there have not, but generally speaking, if you have a decent running attack, you kill the Browns on the ground. So,
But you have no upside with Morris. And you already have very limited with Ivory based on the Powell situation in New England. So for me, I want one upside candidate,
okay.
and for Jason too, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah, I can see the
And it's a
upside
10
being
team.
higher.
It's a 10-team league. He said that in his notes, which means you probably have really stud players you're going up against. You need that ceiling.
That's fair.
All right, JP and Denver need one of these in Week 16. Lockett against the Rams, Snead against the Jaguars, Crabtree against the Chargers.
Ooh.
So Lockett, Snead, or Crabtree. Those are very tough decisions.
For me, if Breeze is playing, I'm going to go Snead. I like the potential there a little bit more. If Breeze is out, I'm going Lockett.
I'm going. That's funny. I'm going Crabtree.
I'm going Crabtree. Based on my rankings. But I don't dislike any of those guys. I think they're all very viable flex-type candidates. He also wants to know Big Ben against the Ravens or Carson Palmer against the Packers.
Big Ben.
Big Ben against the Ravens over everyone.
All right. Greg in Bel Air. I'm in my title game, thanks to you, by the way.
Wait.
Hey, way to go.
Are you a prince?
Hey, by the way, title games. I wanted to mention this. If you have won your title, I really, really want to hear about it. We all do. This is why we do the game. We had a few tweets yesterday at us. We're throwing the hashtag out there, FootClan title. But if you just tweet at us and tell us about winning your title
With a picture of you and your trophy.
that would be even better.
Or if you don't have a trophy,
just a picture of whatever. You can be smiling with the glee of a champion. You can be holding up a sign that says FootClan title. You could be
there you go.
You could be
You could like hold up your credit card with numbers fully displayed.
yeah, any of those options are viable. The last one's the best. And essentially, we want to hear about it. Go to our Twitter at the FF Ballers. Tell us about winning your league. I love the stories. It's why we do it. Literally, it's the only reason we do it is so that you can win your championship and then obviously lord that over your friends and family for a calendar year.
Okay,
So
back to the Fresh Prince.
yes, ODB lost his head. I'm stuck with trying to decide Brandon LaFell against the Jets or Devontae Parker against the Colts. And I'm taking the better quarterback. I'm taking Brandon LaFell.
I am too. Brandon LaFell. Prepare for okayness.
When in doubt, take a better quarterback. That's what I say. So, Jake in Minnesota, are you still deciding on that, Jason?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm sorry.
I was
I was
happy. I was happy you were moving along. That I didn't have to voice an opinion on this one. I guess Brandon LaFell's the safer play. If you're the underdog, then I would probably go to Devontae Parker.
All right, Dylan in Wisconsin. Hey, guys, love the show. Couldn't have made it to the title game without you guys. I have A.J. Green and Julian Edelman, and I'm concerned about playing them given their matchups and injuries, as well you should. Should I start them because they're studs or look for other options? Well, we said this earlier, right? A.J. Green, if he's active and healthy, you'd start him.
Yes.
And if Edelman was somehow practicing and healthy and active, I would start him too.
PPR this week now. Last week I would not have if they were just throwing him in. But with Amendola out and if Edelman plays, I'll play him. in
We're
PPR.
not expecting him to play.
Correct.
I feel like he'd be healthy if he played.
I have a strong feeling that you should play neither of these guys.
Okay.
Because I don't
Ooh.
think Edelman will be there. And A.J. Green, if he's back, you got to worry about him re-aggravating that and leaving again. And he's also going up against the Broncos in addition. So it's
Yeah.
not just, that's
Hopefully
tough.
this show, the waiver wire show yesterday, and the rankings on the website will give you an idea more so to whether Green is startable because we don't know the rest of the players on your roster. So we say, yeah, you would start him.
If you got
but if you got
Baldwin
somebody
again,
else, oh yeah, yeah, or even some of look at our rankings, you'll see. Harry in Grand Prairie, Texas, Captain Kirk against the Eagles, or do I send in the car against the Chargers?
Ooh, Harry.
I have to go with Kirk.
Harry in Grand Prairie. I'm going with Captain Kirk.
And I'm going with Derek Carr.
Both are very strong options, though.
Totally agree. Russell in New York City.
New York City.
I'm guessing you talk about it on the show, but I've survived Calvin Johnson for 2 weeks in a row. Yeah, there's a good way to put it. I need a safe play for the title game. I'm afraid of another 2-point outing. So is it Snead against the Jaguars or Lockett against the Rams? Snead is much safer.
Yes.
Much safer.
If
Drew Brees is playing,
if Brees is out,
then it's Lockett for me.
Guys, we're done. We did it.
We did it?
We did the whole show. It's well over 2 hours. Take a breath. Take
let's
a bow.
get to 3.
No. Don't.
All right, so what's the hashtag?
For the end of the
last
show, if you
time
made
it was
through.
fantasy stuffing. But what is
fantasy stockings?
Oh, I like it.
Fantasy stockings?
Hashtag fantasy stockings.
Stockings, plural?
No.
It's
singular.
one. Fantasy stocking.
Yeah, there you
We
go.
might need a new hashtag. No. All right, we'll do fantasy stocking. Thank you so much for an incredible year. Good luck this weekend in your title game. Have a very Merry Christmas, a wonderful holiday season. Enjoy your family, enjoy your friends, destroy your opponents, and we will be. What do you got? Something to add?
I got 2 things.
That's fine.
Two
We
things
got
real
nothing
quick.
but time.
I got 30 minutes of something I got to go on about.
All right, I'm gonna go back here. No.
So 2 things real quick. Just a shout out to the players, to the Foot Clan. Trust me, when someone says, "You guys got me there, you did it," I love hearing that. But the truth is, we're giving you advice to make your own decisions. So please take some credit.
Yeah, you did it.
Totally
So,
agree.
I mean, I will gladly accept all
Look,
that credit.
every
if
time
you wanna
people
give it
say
to me.
that, I say the same thing, which is I'm really glad we could be a part.
Yeah.
I'm glad we could be some part in this season being either more entertaining, more fun, more victories most often. And I love the stories. What was the one you told yesterday about the person that you just the people around work, their work, come up to them
yes.
and they say, how do you know who's going to play best every week?
Yeah, that's tremendous.
That was a great story.
So we're all in this together. And the second thing is happy birthday to my wife.
Yes.
Oh.
There you go. What a nice guy. And on that note, hashtag fantasy stocking. Thank you. Have a wonderful holiday. We will see you on Monday.
We will not forget you, Week 17 people. We're
No,
here
we will
all
not.
week.
No,
next
we will
week.
not. We'll be here.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Don't forget to visit us on the web at www.thefantasyfootballers.com.